The idiot Lord marries 5 beautiful goddesses. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226, Hijacker Mode activated. Alex stared at Albert, whose body was writhing and convulsing like a wriggling worm. Alex simply gave him a gentle kick and cast a small healing spell and waited for the response. Alex used his spell while channeling his mana to treat him internally. Alex's warm mana flowed into him, clearing the cut as his healing spell partially healed him. But even after waiting for a good while, Albert's body only shook. "Are you okay, or are you going to die?" Alex flinched as he saw no response. "Was I so harsh on him that he developed a trauma?" Alex muttered. "You were a good warrior and one of the lucky ones to die by my hand. I should dig a grave and bury you," Alex muttered and pushed himself back to walk again, but felt a strong grip on his foot and looked back to see Albert staring at him as he raised his head. Alex crouched down, and what followed next was slap. "You think this is a play, you bastard? You dare to act in front of me after I cast a healing spell?" Slap. "Did you take me for a fool? Stop. Stop." Albert's miserable scream echoed out, and he was beaten until his back was blue and his handsome face swelled up enormously. "Tell me, why did you act like you were unconscious? I thought that if I woke up, you would toy with me and torture me," Albert sobbed. "Why didn't you think of that when you challenged me? I didn't imagine that you would defeat me." Alex tried to calm his anger and extended his hand. "Give me what?" Albert asked with a surprised expression. "Give me the treasure you were talking about? Didn't you say that you would give me a treasure after I defeated you? I don't have any treasure. I didn't think that I would lose it." "You?" Alex's face turned red with anger. "Idiot!" Alex roared and punched the man. Boom. 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 After mercilessly beating him, Albert, who thought he was finally done, screamed again as Alex healed him and continued to beat him as he pleased. Tantrum. Alex breathed deeply and heavily as he looked at the man lying down. "I have to talk some sense into him, otherwise the gift from heaven will be wasted on this idiot," Alex muttered and pulled the man over his shoulder, flying towards the city. He could sense several auras approaching this place, but they were only the weakest ones, so Alex didn't find any difficulty in entering the city as he hid from them. In the inn, the atmosphere was rather solemn, and many were biting their lips in nervousness. Their day was ruined due to a previous incident, to the point that there was a risk of being exposed, and all of Alex's plans could go to waste. Will Alex be able to defeat him? Catherine asked as she looked at Riaya. "I'm sure the Lord can defeat him," Riaya assured everyone. "But that guy is on another level. He's a bit special and a monster. I don't know what such a talented guy was doing here," Riaya said with a depressed expression. She felt very guilty. If she had talked to Alex, the situation wouldn't have gotten to that point. At that moment, Mordek, Ian, and Max came back. "Is there anyone suspicious around us?" Christina asked. They shook their heads. "There doesn't seem to be anyone in our way. Harry and Max are still patrolling. His Majesty has taken that guy away, and there seems to be movement on that side, so they might be concentrating to get there," Mordek replied. At that moment, the door opened slightly and Alex appeared with a man on his shoulder. Alex's hair was disheveled and his clothes were torn in places. Everyone gasped in horror at the sight, but more than that, they were shocked to see the man Alex was carrying in his arms. At a glance, it could be seen that the man was beaten like a dog mercilessly, to the point that he seemed to be one step away from death's door. Alex dropped him and ordered the men to carry him away. "Your Majesty, did you just kidnap him?" Ian asked with a shocked look. Alex's lips twitched uncontrollably. He wondered why the hell his men considered him a kidnapper. "Just take him." Alex turned his gaze to Riaya, who shuddered a little. "My lord, please forgive me for my recklessness," Riaya said with a slightly shaky tone. Alex walked up to Riaya and looked straight into her eyes. Alicia, who was witnessing the scene, was struck by a thunderclap. "Where is the coldness? Where's that arrogance? Sister, why did you become a timid and meek lady in front of Big Brother? Isn't it because my brother is going to eat you?" Alex lifted Riaya's chin and, upon seeing her expression, burst into laughter, pulled her head to his chest and wrapped his arms around her waist. "Hey, Riaya, you don't have to apologize. It's okay. I think we've benefited a lot," Alex said with a mocking smile. Everyone who heard his words knew the benefit he spoke of. A new slave, and a superior breed at that. Riaya melted into Alex's warmth and snuggled up like an innocent child. My fierce tigress, you have the strength to even make me run at full speed. Why are you always afraid in front of me? Alex teased. I don't know, my lord. I just lost my trust in you. In that case, we should have some special training, Alex said, smiling. Cough. Cough. Alex's ears perked up. Both he and Riaya realized the situation and both quickly separated. Can you save this for later? Catherine stared at Alex. You don't have to be jealous, Kath. We can also undergo a special training session. Stop talking nonsense, Catherine shouted. Though she can't say that she felt a little nervous seeing Alex so affectionately. Riaya had brought some important information. Alex's playful expression suddenly turned serious upon hearing Catherine's words. Chapter 227, Riaya's Hidden Strength. Riaya explained her encounter with Alice, leaving everyone dumbfounded. They stared at her with their mouths agape, and for a moment, the state of their innocent Riaya clinging to Alex seemed to have been deciphered to the point that they couldn't see him. Her state seemed to be a bit exaggerated, which surprised them greatly. Gulp. Catherine and Christina gulped after hearing the full story. You are a possessor of a diamond token? Catherine asked with disbelief written on their faces. Catherine was not unaware of the situation. She had finished her studies in Zenith and knew a lot about the black market. Meanwhile, Christina, although she hadn't been to any academy or stayed in Zenith, knew a lot about it from the military. Sometimes, they need to look up information about the delinquents and criminals in the black market. And this naive-looking girl was possessed of enough authority to make the market boss bow his head. Alex was a bit ignorant about it, but still didn't find it hard to believe after the explanation after knowing things. Riaya, there's one thing I'm curious about. Anyone who had been to Zenith knew of the terror and legend of the Shadow Queen, who had an excellent record of 390 kills of those assigned, Catherine muttered. You were clearly at the epic rank before, so how were you able to accomplish such a feat? If you only killed epic and transcendent ranks, you wouldn't be able to achieve such fame with this, so how? I'm curious about it too, Alicia asked with shining eyes. Although Christina didn't say anything, her eyes were also filled with curiosity. Riaya looked at Alex with an inexplicable expression. Alex pondered for a moment as he rubbed his chin. Riaya, you can reveal that. I'll seal this entire place with a sound barrier, Alex muttered and snapped his fingers. Riaya nodded and muttered, that's because I have a hidden power that can increase my strength to a greater degree. Riaya muttered and stood up from her seat, letting her veil and cloak fall away. The mana around her swirled frighteningly and veins bulged all over her body. Her hair broke loose from the bun and began to flutter. Her black hair turned purple and her pupil turned purple and her body began to emit a layer of purple mist. Her strength began to increase from the initial transcendent rank to the peak and then broke through to the legendary rank and reached the mythic rank, but when she was about to rise higher, Alex shouted, enough. That's enough. Riaya nodded and soon abandoned her transformation, returning to normal. Loud grabbing could be heard from across the room as Riaya returned to her seat. Alex took a deep breath and looked at Christina, mumbling softly so only she could hear, Christina, did you remember something? Christina flinched as she met Alex's gaze and wondered how she knew. Just like Riaya, Christina had this kind of power that was known as Valkyrie mode. She wanted to say something but Alex stopped her. We'll talk about it later, Alex guided Riaya to continue. Riaya explained her story to others. Riaya couldn't control that power before. It was like that until Alex helped her. Previously, whenever she was in danger, her powers would activate on their own, and after that, she didn't remember anything except everything before she had been destroyed and her target was dead. With her ability, she tried to get into higher authority and consolidate some power. Her goal was to save Alex from the assassin if there was one. Even the Emperor helped her indirectly, which shows that she wanted to help Alex. There might be other reasons, or she might want to stay abreast of everything happening in the organization. Be that as it may, with his help she was able to achieve her purpose. And to her surprise, there were 5 people who wanted to kill Alex, but Riaya killed them instead. As she rose in authority, she made sure not to kill the innocent and went after those who had done something wrong and were evil. For example, a man whose family had been killed by a knight of a noble house, and the man used all his savings to kill that guy. But that didn't mean her hands weren't stained with blood. Although she knew it was bad, as long as she could keep her lord safe, she was willing to do it. Fortunately, no one targeted Alex growing up. After all, he had already been crossed off the threat list for being an idiot. Sob. 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 Big sister, I didn't know you'd done so much for Big Brother, Alice said while shedding tears. "Brother, I warn you, if you dare betray Sister Raya, I won't forgive you," not to mention the others. Even Alex was a little overwhelmed by Raya. Alex never asked Raya and waited for her to reveal her story. Who knew that Raya was holding back because she didn't want Alex to know what she had done for him? If it weren't for his current situation, he might not have revealed everything. "Thank you, Raya, for taking care of me," Alex said with a worried look. Raya, seeing his gaze, simply gave him a pleasant smile. After everything was settled, Alex clasped his hands together as he fell into deep thought. His plans had been ruined, and he was sure that since Raya couldn't find the cellar, that guy had already left that place. His option to stay and look for him was no longer possible. He previously didn't want his intervention, that's why he decided to keep it a secret, but since it's already been revealed, he doesn't need to stop him. Rather, it would be good if the matter became public and it turned into a serious situation. What if the person behind this whole mess was discovered and the entire Magic Association was after him? Would that be fun? Alex smiled to himself. "We'll leave before dawn tomorrow." "But what about the scroll?" Catalina asked. "I wanted to find that person in hiding. But now that the Magic Association has been informed about it, the movement will be big and all eyes will be on them. We would be in trouble if they could trace the scroll back to us, and the perpetrators might already be aware of this. Because of that, we need to get out of here. My lord, you don't have to worry. I've made sure that Ken won't reveal anything about us," Raya said. "Good, tell him to inform a lone wolf if he finds out anything," Alex said with a sigh. He needs to find a way to enter the Magic Association so that he can work with them to solve this problem. As Alex prepared to leave and get to Zenith, unbeknownst to him and all the people in the world, something big was happening in the shadows. An event that could change the scenarios of the present. The place where there is only darkness, where there is no sun or moon. A place where darkness swallowed the light. The Kingdom of Darkness, a place that had been forgotten from the pages of history. Chapter 228, The Kingdom of Darkness. Every world has its own stories of myths and legends that have been passed down since ancient times. Sagas of mysteries that have yet to be discovered, that have yet to be heard. Legends of people that defy imagination, that exist beyond people's common sense, that may not be known, but have always existed. Some of the stories circulated throughout the world, while others were discontinued and stored away as forbidden knowledge that, when spread, could create chaos everywhere. The greatest story of legend that had circulated in the world of Everton was none other than the fight between the first Emperor Kinley and the man chosen by God to represent them. But in truth, there was a myth more fearsome and more challenging than that. A war that transformed the entire world into what it is now. The Age of Cosmic War. In a world filled with magic and countless fantasy, it was inevitable that there would exist supernatural beings whom people revered as God and their antithesis, known as demons. Where there is light, there is bound to be darkness lurking, and beneath the existence of good, there are bound to be some fueled by darkness who are considered creatures of evil. Gods were believed to be creatures of light, while demons were said to be creatures of darkness and descendants of the devil. But only people who have delved deeply into the history of the world, searching for links and giving their all to uncover the truth, know of the existence of an unknown who everyone had forgotten about until he made his appearance. A heaven-defying truth emerged from the depths of history that had remained hidden for countless eons and had been overshadowed by the Kinley War 1,000 years ago. A theory that made the world know that demons were not the only creatures born of darkness, but that a separate entity had been present in the world, which was the embodiment of darkness itself. The goddess and the god were born with the attribute of light, while the devil was born from darkness. But in this process, another entity came into existence whose presence was in itself a threat. The entity was known as the God of Darkness. The God of Darkness wanted to plunge the world into darkness, engulfing the entire world and unifying it in its power until nothing but the realm of darkness remains. It was said that during the period of the Comic War, the goddess and the gods were on the losing side, and the darkness was so dominated that they were able to engulf and corrupt the army of heaven, turning them into shadow entities. Losing battles one after another, the goddess fell into deep thought and wanted to reverse the situation and decided to create puppets. Living puppets were created for her sustenance and to follow her orders, and then they became living creatures that walked the world. The goddess created humans while the nature goddess created the elf species and created the dwarves. The devil gave birth to demons with darkness that can be corrupted as they have the same origin as the creatures of darkness. Along with them were born many other creatures that were transformed in the process. The four major races along with others united under one banner to lead the Joint Army under the leadership of the gods to fight against the army of darkness. After years of war, they finally defeated them. But it was not easy to get rid of the god of darkness, and before his death, he created an independent kingdom from the three kingdoms where the creatures of darkness resided, as he vowed to return once again to overturn the world. After the war, the goddess along with others created a place for all the creatures and the world was created, which was called Everton. Each species took its place in the world, residing in its territory. But as the god and goddess retreated, they also began to fight each other for their greed that had shaped the world into what we see today after millions of years. And now within the realm of darkness, the place where the vilest creature in the world was located, with a most depraved nature, a huge stage was set up, spectators were present, and high seats were erected. There was only one thing that the inhabitants wanted about. It was very important to fight, which has great significance for their future and prosperity. Two creatures charged at each other. Like shadows passing through the darkness of the night, their dark bodies exchanged blows, fluidly moving in battle, clashing against each other. The frenzied dance lasted for a long time, along with the rhythmic chant of fists clashing against each other, but neither of them was able to defeat the other. Bang! 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 They continued to attack and outmaneuver each other, using every maneuver to the best of their ability. But the fight remained at a stalemate. Swish! One of the fighters' hands molded into a sword as they charged at the other in a desperate attempt to win. However, the other man remained standing as if stunned by the opponent, but before the opponent could cause any mortal damage, his hands moved like lightning and turned into a scythe whose speed was quite a bit faster than the dark figure that charged forward. The dark figure tried to dodge the fatal blow but couldn't, as the scythe pierced through him, splitting him into two halves, and the figure disappeared into the air, leaving dark fumes to cover the vision. The dark figure holding the scythe suddenly became alerted as he tried to figure out the target's location, but he realized it too late. A large sword, large enough to tear anything into pieces, with a sharp tip to pierce even the hardest of material, appeared from behind. Swish! It pierced the other figure through the back, coming out of the chest, and lifted the figure into the air with the sword as the injured figure struggled and writhed. But before he could scream, the sword moved and soon his entire body was torn into pieces. Blackish liquid sprayed everywhere and fell onto the stage. The audience cheered as they saw the figure's victory. This was a life or death match that held the utmost importance to them. There would be no loser in the match and only one winner. The audience cheered and fell to their knees to offer their salute. You lose. I win. If you had surrendered, you would still be alive. I have served you for 600 years. I finally defeated you and took your position, worthy of my status. Don't worry, I will take care of your people. Ha ha ha. The figure laughed and looked at the judge expectantly. The judge stared at the tall seats erected there and noticed his signal. He declared the winner and waited for the other side's response. A deep voice resounded throughout the place, filling everyone with awe and reverence. The outcome of the battle is already decided. It has been decided who will occupy the 12th position of the council. Chapter 229, The Kingdom of Darkness 2. A deathly silence spread throughout the place. None of the people present there uttered a single word, as if they were afraid of the speaker. They even bowed their heads to show their respect for the voice. The voice that interrupted the fight belongs to none other than the person with the highest authority in the kingdom. The person who sat in the first position of the 12 who controlled the entire dark realm. His words were the law, and anyone who challenged him would not live to see the next day. Rockers, you have defeated Nex. From now on, the title of 12th position falls upon you. You are now the new ruler of the 12th position. I hope that you will not disappoint the dark realm and the will of the god of darkness. May we achieve our dream and destroy the cowardly gods and goddesses. The ceremony and rite of succession will now begin. Rockers nodded with a playful smile. He couldn't believe that the day of his ascension had finally arrived. After 1,000 years of bitter struggle, he was finally able to prove himself worthy and obtain a seat on the throne. He was a mere servant of the previous 12th position and was trying very hard to ascend. All of this had been made possible by his contribution to the mortal plane. He used all of his merits to challenge the previous holder of the position and ask for a duel. He was just about to laugh when his eyeball distorted as he sensed a slight distortion around the stage. He and everyone were quickly alerted. Boom, 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 boom. A chain of explosions occurred, and the entire stage collapsed and sank as waves of flame spread everywhere, burning the audience and guards. What a criticism! A sharp sound was heard and the space in front of them was torn apart, and from there came a human. He had brown hair and a beard, and blue eyes filled with hatred. He pulled out his sword, which was brimming with brilliance, clearing the darkness of space as if a sun had been born. You have wreaked havoc, killed my family and slaughtered many. The time has finally come for you to accept punishment, he roared with tears in his eyes. You dare enter the realm of darkness in my presence? A loud voice boomed out and crashed into him like a tsunami that shook the entire place. Even space seems to tremble as the voice crackles with enough force to destroy the place with just that voice. Dark smoke rose up and shot towards the man who emerged. A huge spike appeared, taking shape and shooting towards the unwanted man. Clanking. The spike, as if it had hid an invisible wall, was unable to move forward and soon scattered into nothingness. The man sitting in the first position seat stood up with wide eyes. Marshal Saint, a figure dressed in a white robe, appeared. His face shone, and with every breath he took, space seemed to tremble before him. Heron. Long time no see. This young man of mine has come here to seek justice for all the crimes you guys have committed over the past few years, Nick. Finish the job quickly, he shouted. Nick heard his voice and rushed towards Rockers, who was too shocked at the moment. Not in his wildest dreams had he imagined that so many would come in here directly just to take revenge. Sensing his thoughts, Nick roared furiously, "Did you think that only scum like you go to the mortal world and do whatever they want while we are locked in our place? Today, I will kill you." Nick shouted and burned his life force, and the sword in his hand glowed brightly as he attacked Rockers, who screamed in horror as he felt the intense threat. The entire place seemed to light up, and his attack on Nick seemed to have a light attribute, which was his nemesis. Garza along with other seats stood up to stop the blow, but strong waves of energy erupted behind the Marshal Saint, and a number of figures emerged. Let's do what we can to delay them and cause as much damage as possible. Kill as many as you can. An opportunity like this will never present itself in your lifetime. Following the call, a battle broke out that defied the heavens and shook the balance of the realm. A battle between the strongest individuals of their respective worlds. Whoosh. Boom. 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 Dot. After an unknown amount of time, somewhere in Everton, a portal appeared and a group of figures stepped out of it, riddled with scars and wounds. On a rocky and hard ground, a group of people held their bruised bodies. They were a squad of 50, but had been reduced in number, and now only a few accountants remained alive. We somehow achieved a part of our goal, one of them muttered with a shocked and disbelieving expression. His sunken eyes scanned the vast, barren, rocky place, devoid of all life. Sighing in remorse, he stared at the dark sky. Soon, the realm of darkness will fall upon us, but at least we were able to delay its march, and I have finally taken my revenge. Now, at least I can die in peace, he muttered, closing his eyes. Lord, Nick, everyone screamed when they saw the figure of the dried-up man lying on the ground as he closed his eyes and took his last breath. A supreme-ranked powerhouse died before their eyes. He had the talent to reach the rank of Supreme Lord, but the insatiable hatred made him unable to reach that rank until he untied the knot in his heart. Silence reigned in the atmosphere as the man finally closed his eyes. Don't cry. He killed Rockers and delayed their plans. The known darkness realm cannot use the great net to cover the world in darkness for a few years until they can gather the sacrifices and offerings. Everyone looked at the man with solemn expressions. All of them were the elites of the world who were at the apex of power. The seal of the mortal realm was set, allowing the people of the darkness realm to enter the plane and set the plans. Nick, a saint of the current generation, could not overcome his hatred towards the man who took everything from him. Since he decided to make the trip, everyone decided to participate in it, dealing devastating blows, and the one leading them was a Marshal Saint. Marshal Saint is one of the strongest elites in the world from the human side. Sir, will it make a difference? The Marshal Saint looked at the 29 people who managed to make it out alive and sighed. If the other races had accepted the proposal and lent us strength, not only would we have suffered fewer casualties, but we could have caused irreversible damage that couldn't be recovered for centuries. We've merely delayed their plans for a few years. At the very least, there shouldn't be any large-scale invasion during these 3 to 5 years, he muttered with a solemn expression. We were able to get rid of the 12th and 9th positions on the council, but I don't think it will affect them much since they can be easily occupied. Unlike the people of our world, everyone can fight from their side by contributing to the war, a man spoke with a solemn expression. If we could take away one of those top 5 seats, perhaps we would have had an advantage, Marshall said. The top 5 seats held the true authority, while the other seats were nothing more than cannon fodder. The martial saint looked at the sky and muttered, "I did what I could do, now everything is in the hands of the future generation. If your plans fail to prosper and the hope you have for others is shattered, we humans might be doomed along with other races," he muttered. In truth, he was a little reluctant about this, but he continued just because of her persuasion. "I hope I don't regret accepting your suggestion, otherwise, the loss we suffered is not something that can be easily made up for." He raised his hand and waved it. A strong storm blew, and the entire scenery changed. All the people disappeared into thin air as if they had never existed, and everything returned to silence. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230, Abandoned. Albert Haskell was the only son, and since he was chosen as the heir of the Haskell family, which had already fallen into disgrace, he had a huge burden on his shoulders. Being fallen nobles, they were always looked down upon and as a thorn in the eyes as their vassal states tried to take them over and overthrow them. His ancestors had a hierarchy of viscounts, but their glorious past was soon eroded by the weakening of their successors, who failed to take responsibility and stop their decline. Albert was the hope of his house. He was born with superior talent, and from his childhood he was able to demonstrate extraordinary talents. He saw a good improvement and was able to rise in rank quickly compared to other geniuses. Believing in him, all members of his house decided to bestow upon him their relic that had been stored in their vault for countless generations. The heart of the legendary beast, Arctic Phoenix. The Arctic Phoenix was hunted by his ancestor and its heart was preserved. It was a very precious treasure that could change people's lives. Albert consumed it to gain skill and resistance to ice. After being beaten by Alex, with no chance to make up for it, he was forced to sell himself to Alex and work for him. Alberto gave himself up and became his lackey. Albert's only hope was to become stronger and beat Alex to free himself. In this way, Alex was able to catch another slave. If Albert had been a little more sensible, perhaps he wouldn't have fallen into the demon's clutches. As the groups marched on, they all gathered around Albert trying to scare the fool away. "And once you've fallen into the trap, there'll be no way for the great devil to let you go," Ben explained to Albert. "He'll first beat you up to make you feel pathetic, and then whisper promises to you to shake your mindset and make you look at him with respect. Slowly and steadily, he'll cloud your mind. Our king had an insatiable thirst to kidnap people and use them as slaves. Sometimes, you can see him drinking blood on a night when there's a full moon. Look at us. We were all proud warriors, but we've fallen into the devil's trap. What a pity for a strong and vigorous warrior like you to fall into the devil's lair and waste his life. Look at the man. He's the future king of Bright, but now look at what he's doing." Bowing his head and barking like a dog at Alex, Ben muttered. Albert's entire body trembled in fear upon hearing Ben's words, and he bit his lips in fear. Meanwhile, others were trying to hold back their laughter and ruin the fun. Gulp. Albert gulped and asked cautiously, "How can he be so strong? What shithole did you crawl out of?" "Don't you know anything about your recent adventures?" Max asked. Albert simply shook his head as he waited for them to answer. King Alex is the 5th prince of Kinley and the world knows him as an idiot prince, but after he was struck by lightning, he became normal. "What?" Albert asked in shock. "He's that black sheep who was disowned." "How did he become like this?" "But that's not the real truth," Ben said. "You want to know the truth? Then come closer." Albert nodded obediently and walked towards Ben sitting on his horse. "The truth is," Ben paused slightly before speaking, "King Alex is dead. The one occupying the body is a servant of the devil. The real King Alex, unable to bear such a miserable life, sold his life to the devil, and the one occupying his body is a terrible being." "What?" Albert screamed in horror and jumped on Shrek, falling off his horse. Beads of sweat formed on his head as he recalled the scene of Alex beating him non-stop. Not only that, after beating him to exhaustion, but he also healed him and started beating again with a sadistic smile. He's a demon who enjoys seeing others suffer. "Oh my God, who have I provoked?" Albert screamed and almost shed tears of blood. "Father, Mother, I'm doomed." Ben wanted to speak more but heard a loud voice. "Enough." Albert turned his head to see Alex coming out of the carriage, and his eyes widened in fear. "No way. Please don't drink my blood. Please don't torture me to satisfy your sadistic desires. I beg you." Alex's face distorted and he looked at his men, who looked away and started talking about the nice weather. What's going on? Can someone explain it to me, or do I have to take matters into my own hands? Albert saw the reddish tinge on Alex's lips and a small trickle of blood and was dumbfounded. Seeing that no one was speaking, Alex asked Albert to speak, otherwise he might be tortured. Alex calmed him down after hearing Albert's words and muttered, "That's my special protein shake, you bastard. I don't drink blood, nor am I a servant of the devil. How can you believe such nonsense? Are you a little kid? Even kids have a better IQ than you. By the way, do you have a hole in your brain? Did you even go to the academy?" Alex shouted. Albert shook his head and said, "I ran away from the academy." Alex slapped his forehead and controlled his urge to kill that bastard. Albert shuddered at the sight of Alex's upset face but was thankfully saved by God's mercy. "Your Majesty, we have some people ahead of us." Alex listened to the soldier's words and walked to the front together with others, and a small smile blossomed on his face. Alex and his forces had already arrived at the capital and were now meeting up with his forces, which he had dispersed and sent out separately to train along the way. Alex looked at the troops that were led by the transcendent rank. All of them had worked hard over the past few days. Alex gazed at the fierce eyes and indomitable spirit of his men. Although their realm had not changed, they had undergone a drastic change and were now countless times stronger than before. Most of them were ordinary soldiers who hadn't awakened when he took the reins, but now each of them has become an enemy to contend with. "You've all made me proud," Alex muttered and raised both of his arms. A bright light erupted from him and enveloped them all. A warm and welcoming feeling flowed within them, washing away all their tiredness and healing their minor injuries. Alex smiled at the sight of their expression. "Don't thank me instead of the goddess for blessing me." Their journey should have taken about 8 to 10 days, but due to all sorts of things, it was delayed to 20 days, but he didn't mind even though he arrived almost half a month late. They were only a few minutes' walk from Zenith, but still, he didn't find anything strange nor did he see any messengers for him. In a way, it was also a test of his father's attitude towards him. If he had sent envoys or a messenger asking about the delay, then that means he would have been angry with him, but since there were none, Alex can test the old man's kindness and his level of tolerance. Alex mingled with his men and asked them about their adventure before moving on. At that moment, his wives and Alice got down from the carriage and called out to him. "Hey, what happened? Why did they all get out of the carriage at once?" Everyone stared at Catherine, who began to say, "Alex, I wanted to visit a place separately in Zenith. Where do you want to go?" "I have friends in Zenith from my academy days." "I see. Okay, I want to visit my home too," Christina said to Alex in surprise. "Your home?" Alex asked with a deep question mark on his face. Christina nodded and began to explain. "After our fall and my departure, Yvonne brought the entire family, our land, and my people. Under her protection, we were able to avoid the worst possible scenario. Since I'm here, I want to visit my people and see how they're doing." Alex nodded and muttered, "I see. I guess only Raya and Alice were left to accompany me." "Really?" Raya and Alice spoke at the same time with guilty faces. Alex frowned at the sight of them, wondering if they would abandon him as well. "Brother, I'm thinking of returning to the palace early," Alice said. "I've taken too long, sir. I also have some friends I want to meet. Please allow me to meet them." Alex's eyes twitched, and he looked around at everyone. "Great, once we reached your homes, you abandoned this loving husband and planned to leave me here. Damn it." Alex narrowed her eyes and suddenly a thought appeared before her eyes. "In that case, I should visit Lock City. It's only 200 miles away from here, stay in the capital and take the army while I bring Athena and Yvonne back." "That's a good idea," Catherine muttered as Alice gave a thumbs up at her brother's fullness of thoughts. "Split the army into 3 and lead them," Alex muttered. "My lord, I have to go alone," Raya said. Alex gave a sympathetic look. Alex, after some conversation, decided to meet up at Alice's palace after bringing Yvonne and Athena back. "Soon we'll all be united," Alex muttered, clenching his fist. Chapter 231, How Dare You Block My Path? Flying over the place, Alex arrived at Lock City within 2 hours. Alex hovered in front of the city, almost closing his eyes after seeing it. The city seemed to shine with riches. Alex was sure that if he could see through the fortune and luck of someone like Yvonne, he would be blinded looking down from there. Everyone seemed to be quite wealthy. Even a random passerby could turn out to be the owner of 1,000 gold coins. Now, who shall I choose first? Alex wondered. "Let's look for Athena," Alex muttered. Between Lock City and Holy City lies the city of Chesla. Along with Zenith, the four cities were the pillar that supported Kingly. Chesla is the place where many military academies were present, and with the Holy City closed, the priest could provide immediate support to the wounded. From the information he has, Athena seems to be in charge of a small, ruined church that she also used as an orphanage to support the orphans while teaching them how to study and write. Sob. 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 My poor Athena. Alex's heart nearly tore at the thought. Every empire had its saint, and when they grew older, they would fight for the position of head saint, who would be claimed as the direct spokesperson for the goddess Rebecca throughout the world. But his beloved wife abandoned the position to go live in a slum outside the city. When he hid his brain, he discovered that he had vague memories of Athena. Alex had known Athena for a long time. Alex used to visit the church together with Ritaya, which was a mandatory routine for a prince. Athena helped him pray and used to play with him after prayer. Alex, who descended in front of the gate, unconsciously touched his cheek, feeling a bad omen. Whatever, Alex muttered and walked through the city gates. Every guard in the city was epic ranked, and they were led by a transcendent ranked captain. After a little check, Alex passed through the place with ease and headed inside. Alex didn't waste any time in Lock City and headed straight to Chesla City. After meeting Athena, he planned to visit the Holy City and appear before Goddess Rebecca so he could use a healing spell in public. He needed the church's approval to use his full power, and he needed Rebecca to proclaim his merit to others by giving him blessings. Otherwise no one would believe that this guy had such strong power without visiting the church. Who knows, maybe they'll give me an important position too, Alex thought to himself, and after traveling for some time, he finally arrived at Chesla. He asked for guidance and headed towards the slum. He wore a small cloak to hide his bright hair. Most of the royal family had bright golden hair that was quite different from the rest and easily stood out in public. It might not be a big deal in other places, but here he could be identified by his own hair, so until he met Athena, he decided to keep a low profile. Alex entered the alley and was surprised to see the cleanliness and sanity of the slum. Although the conditions of the people weren't that great, it still seemed like they had received proper care. It didn't look like a slum, but rather a place of ordinary people that didn't look poor in any way. Maybe this place has undergone a significant transformation recently. Alex rubbed his chin. He frowned as he saw a large crowd gathered in front of him. Alex could see a church behind from afar along with the orphanage on the side. Isn't that the church where Athena is staying? Alex muttered with a feeling of palpitations. Did something happen here? Alex hurriedly walked as he wondered if this was going to turn into one of the damsel in distress cases. As he got closer, he saw a young man wearing fancy clothes shouting angrily, followed by a group of men. Lady Athena, I'm warning you again. You're testing my patience. We don't mean you any harm, nor do we have any enmity. We just need that boy you've taken under your wing, she shouted. While I'm here, I'll see what I can do, Mr. Eller. A loud, crisp voice echoed throughout the place. Ezekiel is one of God's children. It's unacceptable for a human like you to commit cruel acts against a small child. The goddess won't forgive you. Not even hell can erase your atrocities. My wife is quite bold, Alex muttered after hearing Athena's loud voice from afar. While both sides engaged in a verbal fight, Alex asked people to gather some information. Elmer was the only son of the Flick family and should have been the heir, but recently news came that his father had another illegitimate son whom he had taken under the wing of the house. Elmer, fearing that his position was in jeopardy, wanted to get rid of the thorn in the way and tried to mistreat Ezekiel and went so far as to kill him. Elmer used a poison that would kill him slowly and steadily. Ezekiel was unaware of this and ran away from the house after being abused, fearing that he would be killed if he stayed any longer. It was good for Elmer, but he later learned that the boy had found Athena, who had healed him and taken him in. He blocked the news from reaching his father with the help of his mother, and now he is here to persuade Athena to give up Ezekiel and hand him over. I pity Saint Athena. God is so cruel to abandon such a precious daughter. First, she was forced to marry the black sheep of the royal family, after which she had to face misfortunes one after another. Alex listened to the people's words and wanted to say something, but the people slandered him non-stop. Poor girl, the goddess even took away her sight. Such a noble and kind soul, I wish the goddess would take away my sight and give it to her. What did you say? Alex cried out upon hearing their words. His heart raced and his vision became blurry. Ah, young man, you must be new here, so you might not know about the recent news of Saint Athena. She had gone to Nevin for some reason, but when she came back she had gone blind. We tried to find out the reason, but she didn't say anything. Alex looked at them with a mortified expression as he clenched his fist so hard that blood began to flow out of it. How? Why didn't I find out? Did others know and not tell me? Alex froze like a statue and felt like his brain was overloaded. At the same time, Elmer, after arguing and failing to win, turned around to leave. He cursed Athena until he was tired as he walked away. The people scattered and left the road hastily, but he frowned at the sight of a man standing in front of him. Seeing him standing in front of him and blocking his way, he shouted, "How dare you block my path?" Chapter 232, I came back to take you away. Bitch, you dare to stand in my way. Do you think you are still a saint? Wait, I will kill you along with all the children here, by hiring an assassin, Elmer muttered in an annoyed tone. Although he muttered slowly, it did not go unnoticed by Alex's ears. Alex looked at the man with sunken, lifeless eyes. He was feeling quite suffocated after hearing about Athena's condition and needed to vent his anger on someone. And now the right target presented itself to him on its own. Elmer walked towards Alex and looked at him as if Alex was just a disgusting insect. Scum, get out of my way, Elmer shouted. But the man, as if he was deaf, did not even move an inch or give him any response. You, sir, let me deal with him. I will break his limbs and throw him into the trash, a guard standing beside him muttered. No, there is no need. I will deal with him. I found a suitable target to vent my frustration on, he muttered and unsheathed his sword with a big smile. Killing in public is a crime, but that only applies to commoners. A noble like him can do whatever he wants. Meanwhile, the children who were being reassured by Athena heard the commotion. A little 6-year-old girl pulled out Athena's dress and muttered, "Sister Athena, that bad man pulled out his sword to kill someone." What? Athena screamed in panic and started running forward. As she headed towards the place where the entire crowd was watching the scene, her heart started beating faster and she felt a familiar aura. An aura that she could sense and identify from miles away. No, that can't be. Athena strode forward but accidentally tripped. Although she can still move, she still finds it difficult to run. Athena was shocked after sensing the aura. The fear of the person being hurt by Elmer quickly disappeared. "Sister Athena," the children shouted as they tried to help her. Meanwhile, the people's breathing stopped for a moment as they witnessed the scene. Elmer pulled out his sword and attacked Alex, giving him a curved slash. Swish! With a soft tearing sound, a cut appeared on Alex's white shirt that extended from his right shoulder to his left waist, after which blood splattered. Ha, why are you frozen now? Didn't you show your bravery just moments ago? Why don't you show it now? Elmer said and stabbed him. At that moment, Alex raised his head and his darkness met Elmer, giving him a chill down his spine, but he shook his head and thrust his sword out. Before the tip of the sword could reach Alex's chest, Alex's arms moved like lightning. Coating his fists with mana, he struck the sword. Cling. As the tip of the blade collided with Alex's knuckles, the tip of the blade began to move back and soon cracks began to appear on it. Crack! The blade of the sword cracked and the fist broke. The sword shocked everyone and Alex's fist slammed into his face. Boom! Elmer's entire body crashed into the ground, and a small crater was formed and his body slammed into the ground, knocking him unconscious. HMPH, Alex snorted and stared at the guards. My lord, knight, the guards screamed and almost pulled out their swords, but just a single glance from Alex terrified them to the point where they couldn't even move their bodies. Their senses warned them that if they dared to take a step forward, they would die. Do you want to take him or do you want to end up like this? Alex asked. We'll take him away. Good choice. Alex nodded and brushed off his hands. If you consider yourselves big shots, you should fight your equals instead of scaring children, Alex said disdainfully. Now roll, Alex roared. The guards moved quickly and carried their master, who fainted with a large handprint on his face and disappeared from sight. Alex stared at their backs and turned his head when he heard a pleasant, sweet voice that seemed to comfort his soul, similar to the voice of the goddess herself. Alex, is that you, Athena? Alex's words choked in his throat as he stared at the stunning beauty in front of him. Athena's beauty and body were comparable to Ridia's, but what added more points to her was that she is a ripe fruit, unlike Ridia, who still had time to mature as she is a bit younger than Athena. At that moment Alex remembered the words of one of his mischievous friends. Young men were more attracted to older women while old men lusted after young sows. But more than that, the blindfold on Athena's eyes hurt him. As Alex looked at Athena, she also looked at Alex, probing him. Athena knew that Alex had undergone some changes, but seeing Alex's aura amazed him. Unlike the pure and gentle aura Alex had previously, Alex's aura had a strong blood presence to it. It was quite strong and domineering in contrast to before when he was playing with her. But still, Athena didn't find that suffocating aura that people have when they kill and slaughter countless people, which was quite strange. When one kills or starts doing similar things, their soul also starts to transform a little, which corrupts their existence. For example, a person always finds it difficult to kill at first, but once they get used to it, they can't find even an iota of change in their emotions when they kill again. In a way, it was the soul that started to change along with the person. He must have killed 100,000, if not millions. But when did he do it? Even after that, there was no change in that warmth and gentleness his soul had. It's like he has two sides intertwined within him, Athena deduced and shook her head to clear the distracting thoughts. Alex walked up to Athena and murmured, "I know you can feel my aura even if you can't see me." "Big sister Athena, I came back to take you away," Alex said with moistened eyes. Chapter 233, This elder brother is my husband. The crowd that had gathered there suddenly fell silent. No one could guess what was going on, nor did they want to interrupt the precious moment. The saint had done so much for them and had helped ease their lifestyle, taught their children, and blessed them by freeing them from minor illnesses and pains. They could see her genuine smile and happiness on her face. Athena smiled a little and raised her chin. She wished she could see Alex's current appearance and discern how much he had changed. Athena raised her hand as Alex lowered his face so that it could fit perfectly in her palms. "I miss those chubby cheeks of yours," she said regretfully. "A year ago you were a short and rather chubby child, but now you have grown up and become a handsome boy. I have been watching you since you were 10. I am sorry that I cannot witness your spectacular growth," Athena said in a sad voice. "Sister, who is this big brother?" The children around her surrounded the two of them as they looked at Alex curiously. Alex wondered how Athena would address him. There are quite a few people, and he wouldn't feel bad even if she introduced him as an acquaintance. Athena laughed and said, "Kid, this big brother is none other than my husband, Athena." Alex almost cried as he watched her accept it. "Ah!" The children stared at Alex with expectant eyes, but the people watching the scene almost tripped over their backs. Many even choked on their breath and some thought it was a joke. "Holy Athena, do you mean this gentleman is?" Athena nodded and raised her hand, and Alex took it and held it tightly as if Athena would run away if she lost control. "Let me introduce myself. I am Alex von Leonhardt, the king of the newly established Leonhardt Kingdom. It is a pleasure to meet you all, and thank you all for taking care of my precious wife," Alex said, bowing slightly. The people were stunned for a moment and wondered if the rumors were false or made up, but Alex himself assured them that it was all true and his life simply changed due to the goddess' mercy and blessings. After chatting with them for a while, Alex followed Athena to her room while the children went to the orphanage that was off to the side to give them some privacy. "These children are quite smart considering their age," Alex said as they made their way towards them. "Why wouldn't they be? After all, who is the one who taught them?" Athena muttered. Athena sat down next to Alex, who looked at her with a guilty expression as she removed the blindfold from her eyes. Alex saw her eyebrows widen and her red eyes glowed for a moment, similar to his. "Athena, I'm ashamed of myself. You lost your sight because of me. It's only temporary," Athena assured. "Why are you blindfolded? Isn't it a little uncomfortable for you? I can only see blurry images that alter my senses. You already know that I can feel and see people's auras. If I use my sight, it gives me a headache and alters my senses. So until I can see clearly, I decide to use it. By the way, it seems that you already knew about my abilities." "How did you know?" Athena gave a mischievous smile. Beads of sweat formed on his head as he wondered who the scapegoat would be this time. "Is it the goddess Rebecca? Have you met her already?" Athena raised her eyebrows with a questioning look. Alex gulped as he saw Athena's terrifying senses. "She is undoubtedly the most dangerous among my wives." When he was in Sanctum, he had already been warned that Athena was quite formidable even if she didn't seem so. According to common sense it should be Catherine, but in reality she isn't. Being wise and erudite doesn't mean one is inscrutable. A scientist and scholar who has dedicated his entire life to study may lack common sense in other matters, making him boring and find it difficult to relate to others. But does that mean he is an idiot? Wisdom and intelligence always refer to a particular field and depend on how many fields one has mastered. Athena was a sort of mix of all four. Unlike the novels that describe saintess as naive and stupid, Athena's character description doesn't follow the general trend. If you think of her as stupid, You might not even know it when you die. She's fierce, don't mess with her. That was Goddess Rebecca's request, not advice. Alex sighed and simply nodded. I see, I can already see the goddess presence in you. You also have a strong peach scent, which is proof that she had blessed you. Really? Alex asked with a surprised expression and sniffed. It was the first time he heard such a thing. What's your next plan, Alex? I wanted to visit the church with you and then have a meeting with Yvonne. After that, I wanted to bring you to Zenith for the coronation, Alex replied. Alex, I think you should prepare yourself from now on. Your stay in Zenith might be prolonged. Alex looked at Catherine and asked, what do you mean by that? Athena didn't reply and just smiled. By the way, Alex, I asked you, Athena said in a flirtatious tone. Alex suddenly became alerted, seeing her sudden change in behavior. Alex, I haven't seen you for a long time. Because of that, I think I should examine you carefully, Athena said with a cheeky smile and raised her hand. Wait, Alex shouted and tried to stop her, but Athena had already pounced on him. Let me check your muscles and see if they have developed well, Athena said and started teasing Alex. Stop, oh my god. Is she a saint or a pervert? Alex shouted, but all his pleas fell on deaf ears as Athena examined Alex's well-toned body and muscles. Chapter 234, Visiting the Church. A carriage pulled by 3 horses galloped towards the center of the holy city. The carriage was neither extravagant nor did it look ordinary. The holy city was a place where all kinds of people from different walks of life gathered. Whether it was a high-ranking aristocrat or a poor man, everyone had to maintain a certain decorum. No matter the situation, fighting was not allowed in this city. In the center of the city stood a huge church that had stood for countless generations, but, even after so many years, time had left no mark on it. People did not know if it was for maintenance or because it was a place inhabited by the goddess, but this place seemed as if it had been newly built. Alex could feel the tranquility in his heart as soon as he entered the periphery. For a person with an unstable heart who wants a moment of peace, this place was the best. When the carriage stopped, Athena and Alex walked down. The people nearby stopped their steps as soon as they saw Athena, and the man beside her also piqued their curiosity. Athena walked over, followed by Alex like an obedient child who is afraid of getting lost. Alex wanted to see the expression of the priests and nuns towards Athena, but they surprisingly bowed their heads towards Athena, as if she still had a respectable place for her. But when it came to Alex, they looked at him with a curious expression, as if he was a lab rat. Sister Athena, you're here? Athena turned her head to see a blonde-haired girl and greeted her. Hello, Ophelia, sister, are you here to take back the position of saint? I can finally relax a little, Ophelia murmured with an enlightened expression, but Athena's refusal sparked her thoughts. She pouted with a cute expression. After Athena left, she became a saint temporarily for the time being. Ophelia turned her head to look at the golden-haired man and shuddered a little. Alex gritted his teeth and wondered why everyone looked at him as if he was a lab rat. Should I use my holy power? Don't do it, Athena said with a stern expression. They behave like this because they are intimidated by your presence. Anyone close to the goddess can sense her presence in you, Athena replied. They are not looking down on you. Hey, how did you know what I was thinking? Alex murmured curiously. Rita and I knew you very well. You didn't even know how to speak properly before, and if we didn't know what you wanted to express by seeing your face, your childhood would be much worse than you can imagine. Before, you could just babble useless things and couldn't even speak properly. Alex frowned upon hearing her words. Ophelia, take Alex to the goddess prayer room. In the meantime, I wanted to meet Archbishop Mick, Athena ordered. Ophelia nodded and asked Alex to follow her. Alex, along the way, stared at the exquisite materials the church was made of. This place oozed riches. The window panes were inlaid with gems that reflected the sun's rays in different colors, and the roof was made of glass, while the pillars seemed to be made of jade. You may enter, Ophelia said as she stood in front of the door. This is the private prayer room. Alex pushed open the door and entered the room. The room was empty, made of white walls and white floors. The only thing that caught his attention was the statue of the goddess Rebecca in the middle. Alex's eyes sparkled at the sight. Holy crap, what kind of material is this statue made of? Alex walked up to the statue and his eyes sparkled brightly as he muttered, I should get some material out of it and sell it for a good price. Hey, bam! A bolt of lightning struck Alex out of nowhere, followed by an annoyed voice. Reckless girl. Did you burn all the manners we taught you? Shit, how is being beaten all day and tortured with all kinds of weapons construed as learning good manners? Also, I'll just grind up your statue a bit and sell the holy powder. What's wrong with it? Alex muttered. If you dare to touch my statue, I will declare you a heretic, Goddess Rebecca threatened. Let me see you do it. I will drag your precious daughter into the mud as well. You are a wolf. You dare to bite the hands that feed you, not only will I dare to bite it, but I will also chew it up and swallow it. So let's cut the nonsense. Rebecca was shocked to see Alex looking shameless. You knew I would come to meet you, so shouldn't you at least make me a chair? Alex smirked. Stop making me angry, Alex, Rebecca shouted. Okay, Alex laughed and said, you know why I came here now. Then let me ask you why they were looking at me like that, Alex asked. That's because the amount of blessings you have isn't something one can adapt to your level. The blessing contained in your body is enough to kill a mythic rank warrior. Alex blinked and asked in surprise. Since when does blessing kill people? Anything in excess is bad. If you eat too much, you should feel sick. Strong blessings can damage and burn the body if a single body can't bear the load, Goddess Rebecca muttered. I see, Alex. Recently humans formed a team to attack the Dark Realm. Alex's eyes widened and he looked at the statue with a surprised expression. Alex knew that the Dark Realm and the God of Darkness pose a certain threat to the goddess and the world. He even inferred that they had trained him to be able to fight against them and protect this realm. In a way, he was their weapon. What was the result? 3 Overlord warriors died along with 6 Supremas. Fortunately, the strongest human warrior was present, otherwise they would all have died. They didn't even seek our opinion before setting out. We can't take a look at the realm of darkness, so we don't know how the battle went, but it can be considered a victory for the humans seeing their reaction, Goddess Rebecca reported. I don't know if she can be called the goddess of victory, Alex said with a solemn expression. The balance of power on the human side must have suffered a bit. The human side still has many strong opponents, although it was quite suicidal of them to enter the place, Goddess Rebecca muttered. It's simply because of one person who was bent on revenge and things finally happened like this. Poor men sacrificed their lives for the world and no one knew about it. That's why I don't want to be a hero, Alex said with a self-deprecating smile. A hero bears the weight of the entire world, protects it, and works hard for it, but never gets the glory he deserves, instead just dying anonymously. It was a pity. Most people don't even know that another realm exists and that they were attacked. One day, the entire world might be torn apart due to the invasion of the people from the Dark Realm. Alex was sure of it and needed to prepare for it in order to take over if the need arose. I just pray that during this period, no conflicts will arise between the different species that might lead to a war, Alex said. I don't think the elf side will get involved in the war, as Hera asked them to keep a low profile and prepare for the future, and yes, Hera asked me to tell you to visit the elves when you get stronger. Hua. What did the goddess of nature want from me? She wants you to revive the world tree. It's been withering away due to the people of the Dark Realm trying to corrupt it. How can I revive it? Alex asked. You have an enormous amount of blessings. The system has stored them up, and you want to share some with the tree. You're the only person in the world who's been blessed by almost all the gods and goddesses, including the major and minor ones. Bless my ass. You're pulling the trigger and putting the gun on my shoulder. Do you think I'm a fool or a naive child? I've honed my knowledge by reading countless novels and manga. You can't fool me, I get it. The system is a power bank, I'm a charger, and the world tree is a phone. What? Nothing? Alex shook his head. By the way, I wanted to talk about Raya, Alex said. Goddess, do you know anything about Raya's birth or her parents? I feel like Raya is a little different. She should have the power of the goddess of lust only, but her concealment skills are quite superior. At first I thought it was due to the kind of art she practiced, but the more I looked at it, the more I noticed something strange. She seemed to have the power of darkness and could manipulate the shadow as if she was casting a shadow on herself. I wanted to confirm if this is correct or if I'm wrong. Goddess Rebecca was silent for a moment. I don't doubt her or distrust her powers. I just wanted to know if there's a link between them and her. Both you and Raya must figure it out. It's part of her life. That means she has the power of darkness, Alex muttered with a smile. Who could be happier than him after knowing that his wife had great power? Alright, let's finish this. Goddess Rebecca. From now on you will have a special identity in the church. Don't tarnish my reputation, she murmured and her statue glowed. The entire place lights up and a column of light rises from the church, shocking everyone. Chapter 235, Holy Son or Slave of the Church. Sacred hymns began to play throughout the church along with the loud sound of bells ringing. Goddess Rebecca muttered something and Alex couldn't hear it even though he tried. Is she playing tricks on me? Alex began to feel an ominous feeling, as if something bad was going to happen to him. Is your work done? Now don't give me any more headaches, Goddess Rebecca complained. Alex nodded and began to walk away. Take good care of yourselves. Alex listened to Goddess Rebecca's words and smiled a little before leaving. Alex opened the door and surprisingly found Ophelia standing outside. Sister Ophelia, what are you doing here? I'm keeping an eye on the place, she replied. Alex didn't think about it and walked away. Ophelia, who was about to leave, suddenly began to see a beautiful smile on the statue of Goddess Rebecca. She blinked a few times, rubbed her eyes and looked again, not seeing anything unusual. I might be hallucinating. Ophelia calmed down. She had only heard Goddess Rebecca's voice once and knew that there was no way a statue could smile, as this was just a means of communication and one needed to have the merit to talk to it. Alex, after having a pleasant chat with Goddess Rebecca, left the room with a feeling of satisfaction. With this, he obtained another card that can protect him. With the protection of the church, one had to think 100 times before attacking it. Furthermore, he was curious and wondered what role he would be given. But that didn't mean he was out of trouble, as the world was filled with a bunch of morons. As Alex entered the hall, he saw many priests and nuns appear before him and bow their heads to him. This, King Alex, a man with a white beard, walked towards him, followed by Athena behind. Alex remembered this man. He was a sort of guardian of Athena. Alex bowed his head forward and greeted him. Archbishop Mick smiled and said, "Congratulations on obtaining the title of Holy Son." Alex's eyebrows furrowed and his expression turned ugly for a moment, but his expression quickly returned to normal. Athena tried to hold back her laughter as she guessed what Alex was thinking. While the saint and the pope deal with religious works, the Holy Son is the one who commands the paladins and in a way represents the military power of the church. He, along with the Inquisitor, deals with heretics and other problems. While the members of the church spend their time teaching and praying, the Holy Son deals with all sorts of problems and struggles on behalf of the church. In layman's terms, they were nothing more than church slaves or lapdogs. Alex was sure that the Goddess Rebecca was taking revenge on him. That's why I couldn't hear the statement. She knew that if she had heard it, she would have infringed her charter. Thank you, Archbishop. Alex greeted him with a smile. But I think this is too much for me and I'm not fit for this kind of work. You should take your time to think about this. Even if you don't become the Holy Son, you are treated as such after all. This was decided by the goddess. We have nothing in our hands, Archbishop Mick said. Alex sighed and resigned himself to fate. I wish you a happy journey, King Alex. May you rise and fly up to the heavens while bringing prosperity to others. The Archbishop raised his hand to approach Alex. Tightly clasping his hands, he looked at Alex with a solemn expression. Athena is a bit headstrong and stubborn. She might be a bit difficult to handle, but she is kind and good-hearted. Just because she is an orphan doesn't mean she had no one to rely on. She abandoned the church and threatened us not to look for her, otherwise we wouldn't have left her in this condition when she can't even see. She is like my own daughter, whom I and others raised by our hand, so please take good care of her. Archbishop Mick gave a friendly smile, but Alex felt the smile was rather threatening. Instead of boasting about his capabilities, Alex simply nodded his head. After meeting up with others, Alex and Athena left the church. Alex kept thinking about the bishop's words. The men were having a hard time. First it was the 5 goddesses and now the archbishop. The cardinal of the church is also his brother and he also treats Athena as his daughter. Even his sister wasn't on his side and was threatening him to treat his wives well. When will the day come when wives will be asked to take care of their husbands? Why do all us husbands have to be threatened like this? It's not like all men are scum. Sniff. Sniff. Isn't there anyone on my side? You still have me. I'm always by your side and I'll take good care of you. Alex's expression stiffened and he looked at Athena with a dazed expression. Athena, do you have the power of mind reading or telepathy? Don't lie when you say you can read my expression. Athena burst into laughter upon hearing Alex's words. It's just that your emotions aren't complicated and you're not properly masking your inner thoughts. Athena smiled, which seemed rather charming. Alex, you have a bad habit of letting your guard down when you're with your wives, Athena said. In the company of your wives you're completely relaxed. Your status is very different, Alex. You have to be alert all the time. Don't lose focus in the capital. It's a place full of rot and filth. Athena's words made Alex think deeply. It wasn't a wrong. He does tend to let his guard down in the presence of his wives. It could be a habit developed from staying with the goddess. The goddess of wealth and wisdom was a strict teacher, while the goddess of lust was more of an older sister. Goddess Rebecca was a good mother who loved her son and turned into a demon when she got angry, while the queen goddess was a mother who was blind to her son's actions and loved her son unconditionally. And about the goddess of war, it is best not to talk about her. Alex had developed a sense of serenity and security from being with them, and their company calmed him down, and since his daughter had inherited his personality, Alex felt as if he was in the company of the goddess herself. I got it. I'll be careful. How do you plan on meeting Yvonne? Athena asked. It's going to be a pain. Alex massaged his forehead. Yvonne is a proud woman. Even though she pretends like she doesn't care about us, she does care about us. Don't be hard on her, Athena advised. I've thought of a special way to meet her. What special way? Athena raised her eyebrows. As a business partner, Alex smiled. Hey. So now you're showing your true colors, Athena laughed. Alex's lips twitched and he looked at her with a questioning look. You can't fool me, Alex. You may look like an innocent and kind child, but beneath the mask lies a ferocious beast. This is slander. You're defaming me. I will punish you. I'm looking forward to little Alex. I'm not small in any sense. You can check it out, Alex said, smiling. When the time comes, I will personally check your worth and see if you're small or have grown up well, Athena whispered into Alex's ears with a seductive smile. Horizontal ellipsis. On the top floor of the library. It was a place filled with books and items, but that was only part of it. Although it was a place filled with knowledge in one of Zenith's great libraries, on the top floor of the library, many figures dressed in black dresses were sitting at a huge round table. Are you sure it's her? Yes, I'm 100% sure. The ring glowed and sent out the signal. She's already been missing for years. We don't even know if she's alive or dead. If she doesn't show up, we'll just be wasting our time. You'll take responsibility for wasting my precious time, Han. HMMPH, the man cast a disdainful glance at Han. All the other people started chatting about it, but at that moment, a shadow appeared and the chair that had remained empty for a year was suddenly occupied. Everyone looked at the person who appeared. A person wearing black assassin clothes and a mask covering the upper half of his face. It's the Queen's mask, my queen, Queen of Shadows, my goddess, you're back. Everyone quickly stood up from their seats with elated expressions and bowed their heads. It's been a long time, hasn't it, member of the League of Shadows? Note, I have changed mix rank from bishop to archbishop and the church's authority rank continues like this. Deacon, priest, bishop, archbishop, cardinal, pope. Chapter 236, The Queen of the League of Shadows. Like a shadow, a figure appeared out of nowhere and took her place in the leader's seat. The doubts that lingered in their hearts about whether someone was disguising themselves as a queen quickly vanished as soon as they saw the apparition. Icy eyes with a gaze as sharp as a piercing dagger, exuding a cruelty capable of freezing a bone. There was no doubt that she was the Shadow Queen who used to rule from behind. Ridaya looked at the members gathered in front of her and was satisfied to see that no one was missing. If today she discovered that someone had abandoned or betrayed the organization in her absence, she would personally open their skull to send a message. After gaining fame and obtaining the title, Ridaya decided to form a small independent organization that was free to do as it pleased, but had to answer her call in times of need and follow her orders. Almost all of them work for large assassin organizations, and many were saved or helped by her in one way or another. And some even hold high positions in the Secret Order of the Night, the largest assassin organization in the entire continent. Ridaya rested her arms on her armpit and raised her chin to give a sinister smile and said, "Why are you all surprised? Did you think I would stay out of the loop just because I took a break from business?" Everyone shook their heads in fear and sat down to receive her cue. "I'll get straight to the point. Did anyone request an assassination order or a bounty on him?" They knew who she was referring to and tried to recall things. "Queen, I don't think there's any order issued on him so far." Ridaya raised her eyebrows and asked, "Are you sure, or did you all forget the task I gave you?" Those present broke out in cold sweat and gulped in fear, because if an order was given and they didn't know it, they were sure that they would be brought out of there in a coffin. "I'm sure of it. If you have any doubts, I'll try to look up the information." Ridaya looked away and stopped pressing the matter. "I knew it. I can trust you, Uncle Mag." Mag wiped the sweat from his forehead after receiving her confirmation. Even though she was a half-Saint Realm powerhouse, he was still afraid of her. He still remembered that stormy night when she massacred 3 Saint Realm powerhouses and wiped out the entire noble house. Her power erupted like a volcano, and she rose to the mythic rank in an instant, and the hideous demon-like look on her face was deeply engraved in his memories, and sometimes he still has nightmares about it. It was such a big matter that it could draw the attention of the entire empire to her, but the leader of the secret Night Order personally blocked the information, and the blame was passed on to someone else. The leader was a rather secretive man, and no one knew anything about him or had ever seen him. It was said that no one was left alive after seeing him. He could be a king, a noble, or a peddler, but even though he had an anonymous identity, he created a gigantic organization. The night the queen went on a rampage was later known as the Order of the Night Blood. This was also one of the reasons why he decided to lower his head and work with her. Queen, could you please tell us where you have disappeared to? Could you please appear regularly from now on and resume work? Raya looked at the boy called Rob and said, Rob, have I ever asked you what you do in your free time or interfered with your work? Rob gulped and shook his head. And as for your second question, I will make an appearance if the situation requires it, but I don't think I will work as an assassin again, Raya replied to everyone's curious gaze. But Queen, what if the leader orders or forces you to work as an assassin? Raya's expression turned cold and her eyes flashed with a murderous glint. He won't. I don't know what your relationship with Alex is. I mean Prince Alex. Han, who had just said something and almost wet his pants, saw Raya's sunken eyes. This guy is looking forward to being killed. In the entire organization, everyone knows that you can't disrespect Alex or call him by his name lightly. Yes, you can do that if you have guts of steel and want to wake up in hell the next day. Mag coughed a little to ease the situation and said, Queen, there's one thing that worries me. I'm not asking about Prince Alex's relationship, but we wanted to know about your resolution. Previously, the assassination orders given to him did not come from large forces, but now that Prince Alex is still growing and there is a chance of regaining the title, there is a chance that the assassination orders given to him will come from large forces. If the opposing party is very important, we cannot refuse it, because we will provoke their anger and end up being killed. Although our organization is not so fragile that it will be uprooted, I am one of those who, when a conflict of interest arises, tend to take the easy way out. Everyone present here has a prominent place, but when the situation worsens, the decision will be made by the leader and we will not be able to influence him, Mag explained with a worried expression. Raya sighed and looked at the ceiling with a blank expression. This was also what worried her. Alex's growth was extraordinary, and if he regains his title, the others will not sit idly by. After all, another member to the throne adds more difficulty to them. It wasn't the main problem, but the real problem was security. Each member of the royal family had their forces and the Imperial Knights took care of them. It wasn't that they hadn't suffered any assassins, rather everything had failed, but Alex didn't have that kind of strength. He may get a squad and protector after becoming a prince, but would the parties on the other side of the prince wait for that to happen? Besides, killing Alex is like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Since the royal family had strict rules of not killing siblings, one can take this opportunity to blame the other and disqualify them from the race for the throne. And in this kind of situation, the emperor calling Alex to the capital was like asking a sheep to enter a tiger's den. The more she thought, the more uneasy he became. Raya stood up and ordered, if such a situation occurs, you must inform me. Send me the signal through the rings. If you can't find me, just take the order and report that the assassinations failed or kill the assassin who received the order. Raya's figure slowly melted into the shadow and disappeared from their sight, leaving behind a sentence. Prince Alex is my benefactor, he saved my life unknowingly. Even if I sacrifice my life, it won't be enough to reward him. If anyone doesn't want to remain in this organization, they can leave the place. Otherwise, if I find out more about a betrayal, I don't need to say anything about the consequences. An absolute silence reigned in the place after Raya's words echoed in their ears. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237, Meeting Without Appointment. In the Lock City. In the center of the city stood a huge and magnificent palace filled with grandeur. The palace looked magnificent and imposing. It was built with such rich materials that even a single brick from the place cost a huge sum. It was not just a display, It was also an impenetrable fortress. Countless matrices and runes were engraved on the tall walls that could withstand the attacks of the Cinque Kingdom's powerhouses. It was the Lockhart Palace that led Kinley's economy. They had become so entrenched in finance that their loss was the loss of the entire kingdom. In one of the huge buildings, there was the office of Princess Yvonne, who had been bestowed the title of princess by the emperor himself. Yvonne, who was going about her daily errands, was disturbed by the sudden call from her servant. "Miss, the president of Prodigious has requested a meeting." "Reject them," Yvonne said without looking up as she flipped through the pages. "Don't you know you have to make an appointment? Don't you even know the rules of politeness? This is simply unprofessional," Yvonne muttered indifferently. "But miss, he's the president of Prodigious." Yvonne's hands abruptly stopped and she raised her eyebrows and asked with a surprised look. "President of Prodigious? Have you checked?" "Yes, miss. His assistant who does business with us is also present. He said they wanted to discuss something urgently and didn't have time to make an appointment. They needed immediate help," the servant muttered. "Okay, bring him in. Let's see that brave fellow who came up with so many innovative ideas," Yvonne ordered. The servant nodded and left. Yvonne laced her fingers together and fell into deep thought. 3 months ago, a merchant insistently asked to meet her and wanted to ask for a loan. She decided to give them a chance after noticing the heavy aura of fortune surrounding him. The plans and models in the catalog really left her speechless. There were many innovations one after another. Using compressed gas to cook food instead of wood, a magic instrument to heat food, ideas for performing shows and dramas, and using magic crystals to record the performance and sell it. New fashion trends and designs. And the most important innovation was the bicycle, which was a bestseller for them. At first, she was a little skeptical about it, but seeing the person's aura, she decided to take a chance. The assistant bargained with her fiercely. She compromised and asked for a 40% profit in shares, which was reduced to just 20% shares. In just 3 months, the business made a profit of almost $500,000 after deducting the costs. And the cycle was a highly coveted product, where each piece cost between 200 and 1,000 gold coins depending on the customization. She was curious about the man who had thought of all those ideas that were really out of the ordinary and wanted to meet him. But to her frustration, she was denied the position and the assistant said that he was recovering from something. Now, the time had finally come to meet that person. Yvonne was snapped out of her thoughts when she heard the door open and a man walked towards their table. The man was wearing a large cap that also covered part of his face along with large motleys that made him look like an idiot. On top of that, Yvonne's eyes widened as she saw that the man had neither an aura of fortune nor an aura of bad luck. "What the hell?" she gasped in shock but quickly composed herself as her senses came to their senses as the man gave her strange and familiar vibes. The man smiled a little and sat down on the chair. "Nice to meet you, Miss Yvonne. Have you never heard of work ethic? You forced your way here and sat down without waiting for me to give my consent. Why do I need your permission to sit down? Because you're meeting me at my office. If I were to come to your place, I would have to wait for your permission as well. Also, don't you know that it's necessary to make an appointment before meeting someone?" Yvonne said in an annoyed tone. PFFF. Yvonne was shocked to see the man burst into laughter. "Ha ha ha. It's quite funny, isn't it?" The man spoke and pulled down his hat, letting his long hair fall over his shoulder, and he flicked the mop off. His bright crimson eyes blinded Yvonne for a second, who was already shocked by the sudden change. The man crossed his legs and with a haughty look and a big smile on his face said, "Miss Yvonne, since when does a husband need to ask permission to see his wife?" Yvonne was dumbfounded to see the man in front of him and opened her mouth wide. She blinked for a moment and seemed to be mesmerized for a moment. "What is this strange feeling?" Yvonne muttered as her heart started beating faster and she could feel Alex glowing for some strange reason. It was as if butterflies were flying and flowers were blooming in one's heart. Something's wrong, Yvonne thought to herself as she tried to calm herself down. Alex smiled inwardly as he saw her reaction. He had turned up his charm to the maximum, wanting to leave a lasting impression on Yvonne. "I should stop it, otherwise I'd be in trouble if she found out that I used a spell on her. Is Miss Yvonne simply infatuated with my beauty?" Yvonne snapped out of her thoughts and stared at Alex. "It's all right, Miss Yvonne. You can feast your eyes on your handsome husband. After all, I'm all yours." Alex smiled. "Don't believe it, Miss Yvonne, but when I walk down the street, girls line up to see me. I'm a hot-selling product with unimaginable prospects," Alex spoke as he rubbed his nose. Chapter 238, Meeting Without Appointment 2. Yvonne, who managed to regain her calm quickly, asked, "Wait? What are you doing here? Shouldn't you be with Athena and Chesla?" "Oh, it seems like you're keeping a close eye on your husband." "What a good and obedient wife," Alex said with a smile. Yvonne gritted her teeth and said, "Who's your wife?" "I haven't accepted it yet." Alex sighed and lifted her chin to stare at Yvonne with an intense gaze, making her back off a bit. "Do you think I need your permission to be your husband, or do you want me to beg you to be my wife? Are you two overestimating yourselves, you stupid, hateful idiot? I was the one who carried all the weight and cleaned up all your mess. I took care of everything and protected everyone from the wolves," Yvonne said. "Why did you do that?" "I didn't ask you to do it," Alex smiled. Yvonne was stunned to see Alex being shameless. This guy didn't have a shred of courtesy. "Let me tell you the reason. You did it because you thought it was your duty. Don't kid yourself. I know you wanted to be a part of my family, but your pride didn't want to accept the fact. Don't worry, if there comes a day when you get attacked, I'll take on the role of a shield as well. I know that right now your heart is desperately beating for me. Just accept it. You're wrong. I just found you pathetic and pitied you," Yvonne said as she stared at Alex. "What is this guy saying? My heart is beating for him? What a joke. But my heart is beating fast after seeing him and he looks fine. I didn't think that this stupid fat pig would turn out like this. No, what am I thinking? This hateful man is confusing me." Alex smiled as he saw Yvonne's conflicting thoughts. "Hey, lass, you'll be in my hands soon, okay, Yvonne? We'll leave these jokes for now and talk about business. You have to be very professional when doing this. You mustn't mix private and business matters with others." Yvonne's words hit her in the throat and she nodded her head with an apologetic look. "Wow. Wasn't he the one who started all this?" "I want more funds," Alex requested. "To get more funds, you have to put in a proposal first," Alex nodded and explained. He wanted to make cheap and affordable bicycles that could be used even by common people. Nobles used expensive materials and decorated them with gems to show off. On the other hand, he could use the wood to make things for the poor so that it would cost less. The bicycle was more useful for common men who had to walk long distances than for nobles who could use carriages. Since most of Prodigious' work was handled by David, who had been in capital where Alex was in Nevin, communication hadn't gone well due to the long distances, but now that he was here, it was time to expand things. "So, instead of a workshop, you wanted to create an entire factory," Yvonne deduced. "What about the otherworldly gourmet restaurant? The construction of the structure is going on slowly. I didn't want to spend all the money there and will only use the profits from other businesses to build it. It's a bit of a far-fetched idea. We need innovative cooks and many more things," Alex muttered. He needed to find a very talented cook. Legendary miner, legendary chef. Alex didn't even know what could happen next. He feared that there might even be a legendary sweeper hiding there who would sweep away enemies with a broom. "I wanted to ask about the tailor shop." Yvonne's eyes sparkled as she talked about clothes. "I want Prodigious to have the exclusive right to the designed clothes and you will get only 10%. Nothing more," Alex muttered. "What?" Yvonne gritted her teeth and muttered, "Don't forget that your business was built with our loans. I don't even need your money to open a clothing store. I can just start with a small establishment. Did you think I was a poor beggar?" HMPH, Alex snorted. He had already looted and profited greatly on the trip. Yvonne fell into thought for a moment. After all, she can't force him to sign an agreement with her to do business and keep the share. Since Alex is the head of the group and has the backing of the kingdom, he had more than enough funds to open the store. Yvonne pondered for a moment and smiled. "Alex, since we are husband and wife, what belongs to you should also belong to me. Doesn't that mean I am the head of Prodigious then?" Yvonne looked at Alex with a confident look. "You're right about that, Yvonne. If you talk like that, you surely have the right to talk about Prodigious." Yvonne smiled and nodded in satisfaction. "What's mine also belongs to you, and what's yours is also mine. The Prodigious is yours, and the Lockhart Merchant Group is mine, isn't that right?" "Yes, you're right," Yvonne nodded, but upon realizing Alex's words, her expression turned ugly. Alex rolled her eyes and sneered. "Did you think you were only good at dealing with others? Let me tell you, before I came here, Sister Athena herself had taught me 5 ways to subdue Yvonne and even wrote the notes. After studying under a very professional teacher, do you think you have a chance? Oh, if only Athena had worn glasses, stockings, and teacher clothes. I could have delighted in her." "Alex, you need to work hard to improve the clothes," Alex muttered decisively as he left Yvonne's stunned gaze. At least make it 20%, Yvonne said with a stern look. 12%, 15% and all the clothes for me and my servant for free. Deal, Alex shouted. It can't be considered free since if Yvonne were to wear the clothes in advance, it might bring her great publicity. Okay, I'm leaving now, Alex muttered and stood up. So early, Yvonne said with a sad expression. Does my wife want me to accompany her? Alex joked. It's not that. Since you've come here you should meet my parents and brother. Alex's face turned pale and his legs trembled. Sniff, sniff. I'm going to get threatened again. No, I can't meet them today. I need to inflate my pride first, not today. I came here unofficially so it's not good to meet today. We'll meet at Zenith since all of you will be visiting, and please keep this a secret, Alex muttered and stood up, but before leaving he looked at Yvonne. I'll be looking forward to spending time with you, my lady, Alex said with a smile and pulled Yvonne out and gave her a soft kiss. Yvonne was stunned by Alex's move and quickly pulled her hands away and caressed him. Scoundrel, Yvonne muttered softly. Alex turned around and walked away. Alex stopped in his tracks and turned his gaze around while raising his eyebrows. With a wide smile, he nodded briefly while muttering weakly, interesting, the Lockharts don't seem to be as simple as they seem. Chapter 239, Did you prepare all the materials? Yvonne stared at Alex retreating and stomped her feet with a nervous expression. He came and went like I was nothing. What the hell did he think of me? I'll make sure to teach him a lesson next time, Yvonne snorted. But before that, I have to do something about that strange aura. I'm sure he used some kind of trick to stun me, Yvonne complained. Alex left the Lockhart mansion while remaining discreet. The disguise wasn't the best, but it was 10 times better than walking around in a cloak and attracting the suspicions of others. Your Highness, how did the meeting go? David, who is now working as an assistant, hurriedly ran over with a nervous expression. After interacting with all the people of higher status, he knew how tough his character was and Lady Yvonne was much harder to deal with. She wasn't an easy person to mess with, and on top of that coming here uninvited and without an appointment was like looking down on them. Some people had to wait days or even months to get an appointment. It generally depends on the other party's worth and proposal. The only reason he dared to come here without an appointment was because of King Alex. Alex smiled and asked, how do you think it went? From your smile, it seemed like it was going well. How can he stand up to me? He couldn't utter a word in the face of my ardent proposal. I'm going to take full advantage of this sugar mama, Alex spoke with a sinister smile. David's lips trembled upon hearing his words. Your Majesty, you shouldn't let your guard down. Lady Yvonne can counterattack at any time, and don't forget that she's your wife. If she plays the wife card and teams up with others, you'll be in a dead end, David spoke empathetically. Alex's expression stiffened and he stared at David. This guy? I already knew that, but it's unpleasant to have it said by someone else. Never mind, I'll forgive him. I have a big heart after all. David, you've been working hard lately. I think you should get promoted, Alex muttered, patted David, and entered the carriage. He lied to Yvonne about leaving. He'll sneak out to see Yvonne and enjoy her nervous look. Yvonne and her family would go to Zenith. He would meet them there. The ceremony would last for 3 days, and he would leave tomorrow after tying up the loose ends. Athena was ready to go with him, and the orphanage had already hired staff, and the church members had provided help after Athena's request. Their next stop was Zenith. It was time to see what the future held for him. The second act was going to start soon, but before that, he should at least visit the workshop and see the production facilities. When Alex left the place, in the far corner of the palace, a man was looking out of the windows. Honey, why are you smiling like that? Nothing, Elisha. It's just a thief who had paid a visit but left without making a sound. Elisha opened her mouth in shock and stared at her husband. A thief? Did he come here to harm someone? No, he came to visit our daughter. He ran into Yvonne and is setting a trap for her. Who is the man who dares to court death here? Elisha shouted with a stern look. James, you should take care of him before he does anything suspicious. My daughter is already having a hard life. PFFTTT hard life, you sure know how to joke. She just bosses around, and the thief isn't someone I can deal with. Besides, the thief will soon come here and steal our most precious things. What? He's going to steal and you're laughing like a fool? James, I warn you that if you dare to do such foolish things now, for a year you'll have to sleep on the floor. James, who was in a good mood, suddenly faltered and almost fell backwards. His wife is undoubtedly fierce. Once he saw her demonic side, even he had to crawl back in fear. Cough. Cough. He coughed awkwardly and said, "That thief is your son-in-law Elisha. Do you want me to take care of him and make your daughter a widow?" "Oh. So it's Alex. I heard that he's grown up wonderfully. It's time to test him, and if possible, we should make things a little difficult for him. We shouldn't let our daughter fall into his clutches so easily." Elisha was playful. "Son, your future is going to be difficult, but you must keep going. This man supports you after the two of us are the victims." Prodigious workshop with Nevin's loan and funding. A small workshop was set up in Lock City. The shop was a bit small, consisting of a large hall of 6,000 square meters. That was the main assembly room with other small rooms where people made other parts. They currently had 38 workers, and each of them had a salary of 500 silver coins a month. The cost of land in Lock City was quite high, and Alex wanted to start from a smaller scale and limit sales so that the craze for the products would not quickly subside. When Alex walked in, he was greeted by the staff. Alex raised his hands to shake them, but the people stepped back and spoke to him softly. "Sir, my hands are dirty." "It's fine, even my hands used to be dirty. It's an honor for me that all of you have accepted my offer to work here." The workers were a little surprised seeing the man's behavior. The man looked noble, but he didn't hesitate to shake their hands. "I hope all of you will find the right place. I'm thinking of increasing the scale since we're already established. Currently, the workshop could produce a bicycle in 3 days. Alex wanted to increase the speed to produce 1 bicycle per day, but customization and procurement took time. So, Alex needs to get some shops under him. Alex and David inscribed the custom design for him on the top. "David, we need to start the tailoring and embroidery business soon. The bicycle is good, but the clothing store would be better than that, and unlike limited purchases, a noble house can buy 50 to 100 dresses according to their wishes. We don't need to hire haughty and arrogant craftsmen who show off their pride. Let's try to find lower-class people who might be a little odd but have a passion for tailoring and embroidery. I've already selected a group of women whose skills are quite good in embroidery. Also, call in half of Leon Hart's tailors," Alex ordered. "Yes, Your Majesty. We need to act quickly. Soon, you will have an independent and strong financial organization supporting you," David murmured. "We need to get to work as soon as possible. Since I'm here, I'd like to get everything up and running quickly. Now tell me, do you have all the materials I asked for ready?" Alex asked. Chapter 240, Angus on the Loose. "I had a bit of a hard time finding the ingredients, but I got almost everything on the list," David muttered. "Where is it?" Alex asked, unable to contain his excitement. "It's all in the basement. Take me there quickly," Alex muttered and followed David into the basement. When Alex opened the basement door, a pungent smell assaulted his senses, but he ignored it and stared at the sack of bags. The science student hidden beneath it woke up wanting to get out. On the other side, there were prices of gypsum gems, while 2 bags of small powder emitted an unpleasant smell. Alex's eyes sparkled and he asked where the saltpeter was. "There." David motioned to him and led him to the corner. Alex saw chunks of saltpeter that had been mined from the limestone caves. "I can finally shake things up," Alex muttered. "Your Highness, what are you going to do?" David asked curiously. "I'll be creating fireworks." "Fireworks? What is that?" "It's nothing. Can you give me a moment?" Alex asked as he pushed David along. Alex stared at the things in front of him. All of the things in here were the material used to make gunpowder. It was easy enough to find charcoal or softwoods, but figuring out a location of sulfur and potassium nitrate was a big challenge. There was no periodic table, and people didn't write down the elements. Chemistry was still in its basic stages. Although he knew their properties and knew where to find them, Alex didn't have strong connections in Nevin and didn't even know where the suitable land for them was located. After David formed a connection and formed a network and gave Alex all kinds of information, Alex was finally able to infer things. Sulfur was obtained from the southern part where there were many small dormant volcanoes, while saltpeter was waste material from limestone. Alex was able to negotiate with the workers to get the things. He needed to form a plant to mine the things, otherwise it wouldn't last long. With these things, he was able to invent gunpowder and explosives. The formula for gunpowder was easy enough to remember, as it is made up of 75% potassium nitrate, 15% softwood charcoal, and 10% sulfur, but that's easier said than done. Alex thought about inventing guns and rifles, but he didn't even have the slightest idea of their mechanism or structure. Although both he and Ava were engineers in their previous lives, it doesn't mean they were omnipotent. He was a civil engineer while Ava was a chemical engineer. If Catherine was really Ava and could remember her past life, that would be a great help to him since the world is quite backward in terms of science. Anyway, the invention of gunpowder was enough. He doesn't want all kinds of modern machinery to appear here, nor do he want engines or other smoke-spewing things. Human greed knew no bounds, and just like his previous world, this world could be destroyed by pollution if too many mechanical things appeared. But he didn't need to think that far ahead, because he couldn't even make such things in his dreams. Alex assessed the matter carefully. He needs to find a trustworthy alchemist. It would be fine even if the alchemist was a little dishonest, since slaves were always welcome. Alex left the place and decided to inspect the place and spend some time with the workers, but he suddenly froze in place. "Angus," Alex muttered. Alex could feel Angus' vital signs. He had been in a bad way lately and was on the verge of dying due to the nightmare and exhaustion, but Alex suddenly felt like he had recovered a little. Alex couldn't see all things, but he could get a faint signal from the surroundings. Something bad is going to happen. "I need to get to Zenith." Alex frowned and ran out without wasting a single moment. He decided to write a letter to Yvonne before he left and ask David to deliver it to her. In a dark prison cell. The door was open and a man with a burning gaze walked in. He stared at the man who had been reduced to a bag of bones. He had lost an arm, his face was gaunt, and he looked like he had aged a lot. "How pathetic," the man muttered as he looked at Angus. "I gave you power and resources, but this is what you'll get in the end, that's all." Angus opened his eyes and stared at the large, burly man. He raised his chin and spoke disdainfully, "There's no need to bark and talk nonsense. Tell me why you came here and what you want. You're as alert as ever. Since you're dying, why don't you finish a certain job for me? You might as well get revenge in the process." Angus's lifeless eyes suddenly flashed and his heart raced. "If you want me to kill that Alex, then dream on. Let me tell you, that little guy is a monster." Only those who faced him knew horror. The horrifying scene and nightmare of that terrifying attack were deeply engraved in his heart, and he often dreamed of that horrible scene. "I don't want to kill him, but his wife," the man muttered. "I want that stupid girl to die no matter what." Angus pondered for a moment and asked, "I don't even have the strength to walk and I can trip over my feet, so how can I fight back? Why don't you hire an assassin? Assassinating is a bit risky. If something goes wrong and the assassin is discovered, I would be in danger," the man muttered. "Besides, I can send a powerhouse who can attract unwanted attention. I don't want to risk everything I've built up so far being lost because of such a useless girl." "Oh? Since I'm dying, you want to use me as a scapegoat? Ha ha ha. What a cruel bastard you are," Angus muttered. The man didn't speak any further and took out the pill and gave it to him. "Take this pill. It will convert all your life force into strength and give you a strong boost, but the effect will last for a day and a half. I will ask my people to stay alert and report the situation to them," the man muttered and walked out of the prison. A group of guards greeted him and let him through. The man stared at them and asked, "Did you take care of the guards?" "Yes sir, we have taken them down. But we can't keep going like this. We need to get out of here quickly so we don't get caught under suspicion." "Let's go. Get that fool out. Keep an eye on him. If he tries anything weird or dares to escape, kill him and get rid of him. Try not to leave any trace behind," the man ordered and walked out. He stared at the prison guards lying unconscious and nodded to the warden, who was silently watching the scene with a distant expression. When the man walked out, his eyes flashed dangerously. "With your death, I can finally control that sword." In the cemetery. Chapter 241. This cemetery was made especially for nobles, and only people of higher status would have their graves here. In the far corner of the cemetery, a place where the graves of fallen nobles were. It was a rainy day and raindrops splashed everywhere, carrying away dust and dirt. Despite the heavy rain, a woman walked among the graves. Her hair was soaked in rainwater as she tiptoed around the place. The cemetery was empty, and except for the sound of the rain, the entire place was shrouded in silence. A strong wind blew and brushed past her as she walked towards the two graves, knelt down and laid down two bouquets containing yellow flowers. "Father, Mother, your daughter Christina is here to visit you. Please don't be angry, thinking that your unfilial daughter forgot about you. I had left Zenith and was in Right for a year. I had some troubles along the way, but everything seems to be fine now. Don't worry about me. Even though my life isn't good and my path isn't full of roses, it's not bad either. Christina trembled a little and small drops of tears fell from her cheeks. After your death, I felt empty inside and thought that I would become a lifeless, emotionless doll. I even thought about committing suicide after taking revenge. I know that you might get angry upon hearing my words, but that's what I thought before I met him. I feel that I might not be as unfortunate as I thought. I don't know about the future, but currently my life isn't that dull. Although I don't know what my life will be like in the future, I promise that I won't at least waste my life. Father, mother. Alex had recovered. He had great potential and seemed to be a good man. Although he might have a bit of a bandit and rogue nature, he still seemed to be a cultured person. Both of us should have visited this place, but I couldn't help it and came to see you first. Christina wiped away her tears and started to smile. All the people under our care have been taken care of. You don't have to worry about them. None of them will suffer any wrongs after you've gone to heaven. At the same time, she heard the faint sound of footsteps and stopped her conversation and looked back. Alex with a wooden umbrella in his hand walked to the grave and holding it over Christina, knelt down beside her. Father, mother, your useless son-in-law is here to visit you, Alex muttered and took out 2 bouquets of flowers and placed them in front of 2 graves. I just came back a little while ago and heard that you had come. Because of that, I thought I should come to pay my respects to you too, Alex said and bowed with his hand. Christina's heart warmed a little as she saw Alex, who turned to her and gave her a smile. Christina has been through many hard times and there may be more to come. I promise to take care of her in all her difficult times. So please give us your blessing. Alex moved her hand and held Christina's fragile, calloused hands. A soft glow enveloped her, and the scars on her face faded away as if they had never existed. Christina didn't say much but gave a gentle smile that warmed Alex's heart, almost melting it. Christina nodded and began to talk about other things, letting out all her pains. Alex just sat quietly and watched her talk a lot more than usual. It's good to let out the contents of your heart once in a while. Before leaving, Alex respectfully told them, Father and Mother, I will take good care of her. Please take care of us. There was no one threatening me this time, Alex muttered to himself and was about to turn around when a huge bolt of lightning flashed past and struck quite far away from the graveyard, blasting the ground into pieces. Boom. Alex's eyes widened and he looked up at the sky in horror. I said that casually. Are they watching us? Alex began to sweat profusely, wondering if he might be struck by lightning. Christina, let's go, Alex muttered, gulping. I hope it's just a coincidence. The rain seemed to be getting heavier and heavier. Alex walked out of the graveyard with Christina and suddenly felt that something was wrong. His expression suddenly distorted and a murderous glint flashed in his eyes. Christina, who was walking under the umbrella and standing next to him, looked around. She could see 2 flashes of light nearby that seemed to be coming from magic casters preparing to cast the spells. It seemed like we were surrounded, Christina asked with a frown. I don't think it's us, but rather you guys. I saw them on the road watching you from afar. They seem to be coming for you, Alex inferred as he assessed the incoming attackers with a grave look. All of them were at the epic rank. They even brought mages, Christina muttered with a tired expression. But all of them seemed to only know elemental magic. That was the only silver lining for them in this situation. If they were to face too many intermediate mages, they would be in an extremely desperate situation now. There was no one above epic rank, and that was what confused Alex. If they wanted them dead, they should have sent a stronger powerhouse that would kill them easily and quickly instead of sending them to waste time. Either the other party was overconfident or this whole thing was just waste and cannon fodder. The other party might want to check how deep the waters before making their real move. Alex, I feared. Alex and Christina just walked down the street nonchalantly instead of heading to the carriage. There was only one carriage brought by Christina and Alex flew here as soon as possible. He had already asked the coachman to retreat and inform their groups about those people. The road was empty and there was no one to witness the upcoming battle, making it an excellent location for an assassination. Alex didn't dare to raise his chin, and hiding under the umbrella he simply rolled his eyes. The group kept watching them and didn't make any moves towards them. Alex took Christina's hand and nodded. Both of them had already understood the tactic. Since the other party didn't make the move, they would do it for them. Christina would take care of the rear while he would take care of the vanguard. Suddenly, Alex let go of the umbrella and let it fall to the ground with a clang. At the same time, his gaze locked onto the man hiding behind the tree. He sprang into action and shot the man forward like an arrow. Alex's mind was already in full combat mode, and he was already calculating all kinds of scenarios and their solutions that he could find here. The man only saw blurry images and his heart was pounding in his chest. There was a hint of fear in his eyes as he was unable to read the enemy's movements and barely pulled out his sword. Chapter 242, Surrounded 2. The man was shocked by the sudden turn of events and panicked, but he didn't lose his composure. He unsheathed his sword, pulled out his sword and stabbed straight forward, imagining the scene of his sword stabbing into the chest of the man who was wildly lunging towards him. Swish! A faint image flickered and his sword pierced through the crazily charged image, and a slightly insane smile appeared on his face, but his hopes were crushed and the vision he imagined didn't appear. Stupid, his expression changed slightly when he heard a faint voice filled with disdain coming from beside him, and was horrified to see that what he pierced through was just an afterimage that immediately disappeared. How can it be so fast? He couldn't finish his sentence and turned his body to react, but it was a little too late as a sword appeared and cut through his arms like a knife cutting through butter. The man looked at Alex with a bewildered look, unable to react, and before he could scream, Alex had already slit his throat. You have killed an early epic rank warrior. You have gained 50 experience points. After a long time, a notification appeared before him. Alex's eyes almost became moist upon seeing the notification. The system had a restrictive option, as once he rose in rank, he couldn't gain experience points from killing lower ranked guys, and it even considered him a bully when he defeated lower ranked ones. This frustrated Alex greatly, as the higher he rose, the higher the difficulty he had to face, and experience didn't increase at all based on ranks like general troops. It was somewhat biased towards him, and in a way, the goddess was restricting him by asking him to rely more on himself instead of the system. And the powerhouses of the upper realm don't grow on trees that he can pick and eat as much as he wants. There wouldn't even be 100 or so overlord warriors in this world, so if he reached the overlord rank, how well would he level up? Killing 10 overlords would barely earn him 1000 EXP when he reached the overlord realm, and killing them wouldn't be easy. Alex kept all his grievances in his heart at that moment and decided to focus on those black-robed men. He could seek trouble with the goddess another time. Alex turned around to see the other 5 shadows converging towards him, while 2 casters had finished preparing their spells and were waiting for the right moment to cast them. At the same time, one of the men pulled out his sword. The sword was completely black, and the entire blade seemed to be stained with a lethal poison that gave off a strange smell. A single slash from the sword was enough to kill the enemy, and even a healer might find it difficult to heal quickly. Alex, whose shoulders and arms were relaxed after killing the first man, abruptly accelerated and pulled out his sword in a smooth motion. The man's eyes narrowed as a golden light flashed on his black longsword due to the injection of aura. This was one of his most powerful strikes, and he had killed many epic ranked warriors with it in the past. However, his heart sank into darkness as Alex swung his sword upward in a seemingly casual motion. The sword strike seemed rather light and lacking in power, but it was so fast that the man was unable to track its trajectory with his eyes at all. The speed seemed to exceed the limit of an epic ranked warrior, and he couldn't even react properly. His heart was horrified at the thought that the man was intentionally hiding his power. The man's expression sank, but his expression became intense as he poured out all of his mana and injected it into his sword. A flash of crimson light appeared on Alex's sword. The light was very dim and could easily be overlooked unless one observed the situation with the utmost attention. Meanwhile, raindrops were cut following the round vibrating sound of metal rubbing against each other. Dying. 2 swords clashed, splashing rainwater around them and saving them. One sword was cut in half, and the tip of the sword flew away, taking the momentum with it. The man was terrified and his scales went numb. He could sense that the enemy was in the same range as him and was quite a bit younger, but he couldn't defend himself against his enemy's attacks. The man quickly snapped out of his thoughts as he looked at his longsword being cut off by his opponent. He thought of retreating while sending a signal to the others to back him up, but Alex's shadow appeared before his eyes and a cold sensation ran down his neck and took away all feeling from his body. Blood gushed out from his neck and his HUD fell to the ground. After decapitating him, Alex didn't even look at him before charging towards the next black-clad figure. A column of blood gushed out from Alex's back as the corpse fell to the ground. The eyes of all the black-robed figures widened in shock and horror at the sight, but none of them backed away or uttered a single word. Instead, they tightened their grip on their weapons and continued to charge towards Alex. Although 2 of their team members were killed instantly, that didn't mean the man was invincible. Furthermore, They had several advantages on their side and their plan wasn't to kill the man earlier. They just needed to engage the men and keep them busy until their target had been destroyed. There were still plenty of them left, so there was no reason for them to panic. Wind blades rising, one of the mages pointed his wand at Alex and purple tornadoes tore through the air. Greenish wind blades performed a deadly dance, stirring up dirt, leaves, and stones as they hurtled towards Alex. Alex was alerted to the windstorm and jumped back into the air, but at the same time, another spell was fired at him. Scorching Flame. Chapter 243, Surrounded 3. The other mage also unleashed his spell at almost the same time. A crescent-shaped flame sword about 3 to 4 meters in length whistled through the air towards Alex at a speed greater than the tornado. The other black-robed figure converged towards Alex, creating an inescapable gap that cut off all avenues of retreat. The path began to crack and many trees on the sides were uprooted by the violent winds, while the paths that were soaked by rainwater just a moment ago were scorched by the flame sword. A wave of scorching heat was released as the black-robed figure closed in on his prey. Alex's expression remained calm as he assessed his current situation. Suddenly, he leapt towards a tree and stomped on a nearby tree, allowing him to instantly change direction. Alex slashed his sword and deflected the flame blade, throwing it into the tornado. He then used 2 more trees on the launch pad in quick succession before propelling himself towards a black-robed figure while slashing at him with his sword. A dagger sliced through Alex's sleeve, and its poisonous edge missed cutting through his arms by a mere millimeter. The 2 spells collided behind Alex with a loud explosion as flames tore apart and tornadoes were cut in half. Alex spun his wrist using his sword to shatter the attack of the black-clad assailant in front of him and stabbed his sword into his chest. Alex kicked his chest and used it as a foothold to launch himself towards the mage behind. Swoosh! A fireball headed towards Alex as soon as he jumped. Alex raised his sword and used it as a shield to defend himself and twisted his body, allowing the attack to slip over his sword, which he threw back at the mage. The mage frowned and raised his staff to cast a spell to defend himself. Boom! The ground vibrated and he was forced to take a few steps back as both spells collided. Stop him! The deputy leader of the group realized what Alex was trying to do and immediately tried to relay his orders to the troops. Seeing 3 of his comrades die in quick succession, they were under immense pressure. Alex made no secret of his intention and immediately headed towards the mage. The 2 long-range magic casters were totally useless in close combat and relied solely on the protection of their comrades. The 2 mages were immediately alerted, and despite their panic, they still had the presence of mind to unleash their disposable magic shields. At the same time, the tips of their wands glowed as they began to build up power for an even more powerful spell. They thought this was an opportunity. If they could restrain and bind Alex, his teammates would be able to tear him to shreds. Magic shields that were meant for them appeared before them and were cast on their wands. The other black-robed figures circulated their strength as they waited for the chance to attack Alex once he was trapped. Alex stared at the golden magic shields encapsulating the 2 mages, and a disdainful sneer appeared on his face. If he was just a normal swordsman, then he would have already fallen into the pit waiting to be slaughtered. His main strength wasn't just swinging his sword. Horizontal ellipsis. While Alex interacted with a group of black-robed figures, Christina was also surrounded by another group. Swish! Swish! Christina's image blurred and 2 faint shadows collided. Clammo! 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 They exchanged swords for a couple of rounds, and a figure flew into the air like a ragdoll with cuts all over his body. Christina calmly looked at the 2 approaching swords and swung her sword. Her sword clashed against the first one, and the force of the blow caused her wrist to bend unnaturally. The trajectory of the sword changed and the arc moved towards the other man. The other black-clothed man stopped and turned his body to dodge the blow, but at that very moment, Christina had already quickly closed the distance. Her sword stabbed deep into his chest and came out through his back. Christina pulled out her sword, and a strange gurgling sound came out of her mouth as she fell to her knees. Christina rolled her gaze and quickly jumped back, doing a somersault in the air. A sword passed under her feet with the intention of cutting off her legs, but Christina reacted rather quickly. The man's expression became disfigured. He knew that Christina's strength was gone and he had to start from scratch, but in 2 years he managed to rival them. He raised his sword and charged at her. Christina gently swung her sword and struck him, stopping the attack. She twisted her wrist and closed the distance by kicking the man's torso. The man let out a painful groan and his stance collapsed, and Christina turned around and slammed her knees into his head. The blood gushing out of him dyed her vision red and her sight became dizzy and agitated. The man fell to his knees with a large blow to his head. A knight must have integrity and moral doctrine. If not, he does not deserve to be a knight. A scoundrel like you is unfit and sullies such a prestigious rank, Christina spoke in disgust. The man's heart raced and he looked at her in absolute horror. The words caught in her throat as she wondered if Christina had deduced her identity. How? The man asked with a questioning look. Your combat techniques are quite similar to that scum. You must be a discarded cast-off from the group under your command. You are to go up first and reserve the spot for the others. Soon, I will send that entire legion after you. Christina spoke with a cold expression and swung her sword, slashing at the person and leaving them stunned. That scum dared to send a man after me after all this. Christina's expression darkened and anger burned within her chest. She was worried that the man had sent someone strong to deal with him. It didn't matter if she died here, but she couldn't do anything about Alex, who had a bright future ahead of her. Christina thought about returning to Alex's side when she saw a frail-looking man with a missing arm appear before her. You. Christina looked at the man with a surprised expression. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244, Surrounded 4. Alex tightened his grip on his sword and moved forward, looking at the mage with a generous gaze. The mage panicked upon seeing Alex's expression as he charged straight towards them. Mana swirled at the tip of the sword, and the tip of the sword traced a circle in the air. A faint glow lit up at the tip of the sword, and he stabbed his sword into the fire-type mage's magic sword. The magic shield, upon coming into contact with his sword, instantly began to churn, much like a container of boiling oil would after being splashed with water. The tip of the sword pierced through the shield with ease. It melted a hole in the magic shield in the blink of an eye, evading it with ease as the mage looked at the scene with disbelief on his face. The others thought this was their chance, and they would attack once Alex failed to break the shield. But their dreams were shattered, and they were crushed brutally. They stood rooted to the ground watching Alex maneuver, and even before they could react or save them, Alex had already pounced on them quickly like a cheetah. The magic shield had been torn apart like it was a piece of paper. Alex burst through the shield, horrifying the mages, who began to scream in despair as for a moment, Alex's figure intertwined with that of the god of death. Forgive us. We never intended to kill you. We only wanted to keep you down. The mage spoke, trying to appease Alex, but as if he were deaf, his figure simply passed by them. He passed through the barrier quickly and struck the two mages in quick succession, one by one. A crash of breaking glass echoed throughout the place. Screech. Blood spewed into the air as Alex walked past them, following which two bodies fell to the ground with a thud. A magic swordsman always has an advantage, and when it comes to Alex, who is proficient in both swordsmanship and magic spells, killing mages was his forte. Mages were very confident in their high-level shield, thinking that as long as they had strong shields, the opponent at the same rank or a rank higher than them would not be able to touch them, making them quite conceited. However, Alex was a special exception to this preconceived notion. By injecting magic into his swordsmanship to make it sharper and focusing on a small point, pouring out all of his mana, he could pierce through the barrier with less effort instead of slicing and breaking the barrier with all of his strength. The principle was similar to applying pressure, smaller areas, greater force, and increasing pressure until the particular point on the barrier collapses under immense pressure. On top of that, under Alex's fine control, mana begins to invade the barrier and tear it apart from within, shattering it once his sword touches the barrier. Alex brandished his sword to get rid of the blood as he looked at the figure surrounding him with a murderous glow. 4 swords tore through the air and lunged at him in unison, and they all came from different directions and angles, cutting off all avenues of evasion or retreat. Alex swung his sword back and attacked the sword, aiming for his heart from behind first. In doing so, he deflected the sword from its original trajectory and severed one of the wielder's fingers. He then raised his sword and sliced another approaching long saber in half as he fell backwards, 2 miniature needles barely grazing his face. At the same time, he slashed his sword at the abdomen of another black-clad assailant. In the blink of an eye, Alex had evaded all 4 lethal attacks and severely injured one of the assailants. However, it was far from over. A short sword pierced his waist from behind, and even though it succeeded, a cut was still left on his clothes. 2 flying knives passed by his ear, But Alex dodged them by quickly moving his head and they barely grazed him, cutting off a few strands of his hair. If he had dodged a little later, it would have pierced his glabella. Damn it, Alex cursed as he swung his long hair to keep them in check. After returning and fighting until now, it was the first time Alex faced discomfort due to his long and heavy hair that had gotten wet due to the rain, giving him a slight difficulty. Bastard, I'll cut your hair off after I kill you, Alex muttered, and with a swift movement, he stabbed his sword into the abdomen of one of the men and pressed his sword down hard, giving him more pain, but the evildoer also had no intention of giving up as he swung his short sword towards him. Alex's sword danced under the trickle of rain and sweat was already beginning to form on his forehead. All of these men's weapons were coated in lethal poison, and even a gentle jab was enough to send someone to the Underlands, and healing spells were almost useless on them until it was a higher level. And if this wasn't enough, when their weapons collided with him, a portion of the splattered poison was able to pierce the skin, causing a slight burning sensation and discomfort. Fortunately, Alex received a very strong blessing that helped him recover quickly. He wasn't worried about Christina, as these beloved of the goddess have a higher resistance to poison and were almost immune to it. Although this poison could put them in a difficult position, it wouldn't do much harm to them. Alex stared at the man who wouldn't let go, and although he was stabbed, he still swung his sword furiously at him. Alex tilted his head and dodged the blow, and holding the man's wrist he twisted it at an odd angle. A cracking sound was heard and the man's expression distorted under immense pain. Alex pulled at the man's arms as he applied more force while raising his sword in an upward motion, cutting the man into two halves. Chapter 245, Surrounded 5. Alex faced all four epic rankers at once, who used everything they had at their disposal to get rid of him. Lucas parried one of the man's attacks and swung his sword to lightly slash the other. One of them appeared from behind and fired two poison-coated daggers at him. Alex jumped and twisted his body, allowing the dagger to pass through him as he landed on one of the man's shoulders and slashed at him with his sword. His sword dug deep into his back and the man coughed out blood, but as Alex tried to pull his sword out, the man held his sword trying to stop it from coming out while stopping Alex's movements. Alex stared at two men who were rapidly approaching him. He narrowed his eyes and his lips curved upwards instead of showing fear. You only know how to unite against each other. Without anyone noticing, Christina appeared next to the man and skillfully stabbed her sword into the back of one of them. Her tip pierced the back of the man who emerged from the front. She kicked him aside like he was a lifeless doll and stomped on the ground and threw herself at the other. Alex kills the man and lunges at the remaining one. A series of clashes ensued as the two faced each other as they both joined hands to attack the remaining one. Alex found it quite pleasurable to join in on the other side as the opponent seemed to be on the verge of tears and breaking down. It might be the first time the man suffered an injustice of such magnitude, as he was the one who always sided with the others. A few moments later, Christina put the blade of her sword on the black-clad man's neck and asked coldly, "Scumbag dog. Did that traitor commander send you?" Alex blinked and rubbed her ears, wondering if she had heard something wrong. Christina was a girl of few words and didn't even use honorifics like this one. Alex noticed that Christina was a little agitated and seemed quite nervous, and thought it might be due to the incident that took place today when she had visited her parents. Alex saw a small wound on her abdomen and frowned and wanted to ask her about it, but stopped to let Christina finish. "Kill me, I won't answer your question." "As you wish," Christina muttered and slashed the man's neck with an indifferent expression. "How did you get hurt?" "Angus fought me," Christina said, catching a glimpse of Alex's figure and pondering for a moment, and asking, "Did you know about this and suddenly come here?" Alex scratched her cheek and said, "No, I didn't." Alex wanted to laugh out loud at Angus' misfortune. That guy just puffed up his pride and broke out of his prison and could have achieved his previous strength only to be knocked down by Christina. Alex already knew about the fight and knew that Angus was no match for the current Christina, who had almost recovered to her peak level. Perhaps he had a chance during the war, but now he's not worthy of even challenging her. Alex gave a mysterious smile. Christina sighed and said, "I'm sorry I couldn't kill that dog. He ran away." "It seems you know that person quite well." "Were they all his men?" Alex asked, raising her eyebrows. Christina nodded. Alex's expression changed a little and he breathed heavily. Walking forward, he wrapped his hand around her waist and said, "Let's go." Alex's warm breath brushed against Christina and his hands warmed her a little in the rain. The rain covered all sounds and the blood from the battle was quickly washed away. Their clothes had some cut marks and their hair had stuck to their scalps from the pouring rain, giving them a disheveled appearance. Alex assessed for peace of mind if Christina had any cuts from the poison wound and was glad to find none. "Where?" Christina asked. "Some people don't know how to lie down. So we should show them their position." Alex hugged Christina and her figure floated into the air and flew straight through the sky. Christina stared at Alex's expression that looked as if this man was going to war. Horizontal ellipsis. A disheveled figure ran past through the dense canopy trying to flee as far as possible. He was drenched in blood that was washed away by the raindrops. She gritted her teeth to suppress the pain, but today's defeat marks another humiliation. Even if she could have lived past today, a shadow would have been left in her heart. He had already resigned himself to his fate and thought that since he had no way out after killing Christina, at least seeing Alex crying tears of blood would at least calm his heart. But who would have thought that the girl would be so fierce and almost cut off his remaining arms? It wasn't that she was formidable, rather losing her hand had ruined her balance, and since she was in poor condition without any combat training, her condition was not good for battle. He could dominate others with his rank, but in the face of Christina, who had superior combat prowess, vast experience, and tacit understanding, he was not even able to hold back. Seeing death, his heart finally trembled in fear, but when he noticed the situation on the other side, a hope germinated in his heart. Alex and Christina had almost killed the black-clad figures sent by that man. Angus knew that if he survived, he would be killed, but since everyone had been killed, there was no one to restrain him. In that case, he thought of escaping with his life and hiding somewhere. He swears not to provoke anyone and keeps a low profile. But what he didn't know was that the death decree had already been issued, and this time there was no way for him to back out, and the messenger was already heading his way. Chapter 246, Some People Don't Know How to Keep a Low Profile. Angus, who was running like a madman, suddenly saw a large shadow cast all over the place. He didn't care at first, but in an instant he saw the shadow shrink rapidly and his eyeball enlarge. He looked up as he sped up, but it was too late to escape. A fireball descended and a loud voice was heard. Meteor crash, boom. The sole of a foot hit his head, and his figure crashed into the ground hard with a loud thud. The ground rumbled and began to crack due to the small explosion. Dust and debris were blown away and a crater was formed as the cloud of smoke disappeared. Alex's figure appeared and stood above Angus while holding Christina in her arms. "Why do I feel like the name of the move doesn't match the action?" Christina muttered. Alex laughed bitterly. He remembered a scene from the movie where a man used to defeat his enemies by falling from above and hitting the enemy with his butt. But since he can't do something embarrassing in front of his wife, he has to use his feet. Still, the effect wasn't that bad and he was already thinking of incorporating the move into his arsenal. Alex stared at the pitiful figure of Angus who had a huge horn on his head. A gurgling sound was heard as blood poured out of Angus' lips. "Did he die because of my carelessness? It seems he wasn't able to do this little move of mine." "I don't think so," Christina said with a blank expression. Alex put her down, grabbed the back of Angus's head, lifted him up and slapped him awake. "Wow," Angus muttered in a shaky voice. "It's your daddy." Angus opened his eyes and saw Alex's face staring at him with a menacing look. "Kayak?" Angus screamed with a horrified look and his screams sounded like pigs' squeals. "I'll tell you everything you need if you can spare me and hide somewhere," Angus said as he gathered all his courage. Alex's lips curved upwards and he said, "No thanks, my hands were tied earlier and I couldn't kill you before, but now, he." Alex's sinister laughter echoed throughout the place followed by loud thunderclaps that sent a chill down Angus' spine. "Angus, you did well to come here. For all your hard work, I will give you death," Alex said and snapped his neck, killing him instantly. "Break. Shut up, it's finally over," Christina sighed, taking a deep breath. "It's not the end, it's just the beginning," Alex muttered with killing intent. He wouldn't be a man if he didn't blow the issue up and muddy the waters. Alex and Christina quickly ran over. Even though there was no chance, Alex was still worried about the safety of his other wives. "I wish their target was Christina and not others," Alex thought to himself. Who knows what goes through those shrews' heads and whether sending men to fight Christina only made her sink until she committed the real crime. Alex and Christina arrived before a huge noble mansion. It was Christina's house, the place where all her sweet memories were kept until they were uprooted. The huge iron doors of the mansion were pushed open by the servants who greeted them. From time to time they stared at Alex and Christina, who had some blood on their clothes and a blood-stained sack on Alex's back. Both of them seemed to be seriously injured, and seeing them injured, they became a little scared. Alex looked around and found no trace of battle. Seeing that everything was fine, Alex sighed in relief. As soon as they entered, a commotion occurred. Rhea, Catherine, and Athena, who had just returned, ran towards them with a worried look. "Were you attacked, my lord? Are you alright?" Rhea almost threw herself at Alex after seeing Alex's condition, but Alex assured her. Alex explained the facts without leaving anything behind, downplaying the shock. "We just returned and someone had already started attacking us," Catherine said disdainfully. "Are you sure it was that commander under the second prince?" Catherine asked. Christina nodded. "That man wanted to nip the bud in the bud completely, damn it." Catherine stomped her feet furiously. Attacking Christina was equivalent to attacking all of them, and in the process, everyone could be implicated. If they weren't careful, they wouldn't even live to see the next day. Alex looked at his wives anxiously and his blood was already boiling. Although they weren't strong, that didn't mean they didn't have backup. If somehow Ivan or Athena had been attacked, the matter wouldn't end so easily. Even if they weren't present, that didn't mean he was going to accept it as a lie. To everyone's surprise, Alex squatted down and opened the sack. There were 3 corpses inside. Alex took out Agnes' corpse and muttered, "Take care of these if anyone comes here, and hand one over to them. For now, let's keep another one. We don't know if the investigator is a spy or not, who would take the corpses and get rid of the evidence." Alex opened his chest armor and shoulder pads. Alex asked for Rhea's dagger, and taking it he pierced her chest and made a cut, and similarly made a few more cuts over her body. Alex and Christina had injured themselves so they could be seen injured in front of the public's eyes. But Alex wanted to look more pathetic. "Alex, what are you doing, my lord?" they screamed in horror at the sight of Alex injuring himself. Even Athena was caught off guard for a moment. After making cuts, she slit Angus' throat, held his head, and spoke to him coldly. "I'm going to visit the castle." "Alex, have you gone mad?" Christina asked in disbelief. Her cold expression gave way to worry and guilt. "It's the best we can do now. If we don't act now and prove that we're not to be trifled with, the moles will raise their heads one by one," Alex said coldly. Rhea and Christina wanted to stop him, but at this moment, Athena spoke up. The trainer might not have thought that Alex would screw this matter up. He might have expected that at worst we would ask for an investigation and he could deal with the consequences. "What do you think about this, Catherine?" Athena asked. Catherine pondered for a moment and said, "Logically we should follow a peaceful path and keep a low profile until we're stronger, but after seeing Alex, I think he should do as he pleases." Catherine spoke with a smile. "You can't wait to test the water, right?" Alex smiled and said, "Ladies, wait for the good news." Alex turned around and walked out to leave. Everyone looking at his back suddenly felt as if he was walking on a plain filled with corpses and rivers of blood. Alex held Angus' corpse and flew straight into the sky. He had acted weak and kept himself at bay just to see who was on his side and took pity on him, or if there was anyone who could help him. But since then, it has come to this point, there was no need to restrict him anymore. Alice would already be taking a look at the others and will now seek justice directly from the Emperor. It didn't matter even if she had to kill to get in. Athena watched as Alex faded away with a complicated look. "Worst case scenario, what could the punishment be?" Christina asked with a worried look. "Maybe a hand or a leg," Athena muttered. Rhea's expression stiffened and her heart began to beat wildly due to nervousness, while Christina began to blame herself. The men came for him, and since Alex was looking for trouble, if anything happened to him, she would be the one to bear the sin. With Alex's healing power and blessing, he could even reattach the severed legs just if the punishment ended with this, Catherine said with an uneasy expression. "Don't worry, even in the worst case scenario the Emperor wouldn't take his head," Catherine said, trying to cheer up the others. "It's not that the Emperor doesn't, he doesn't dare have plans to harm him. Because, if he dares, not even the heavens will be able to save his throne, and I swear it," Athena said, radiating a coldness that could freeze everything. A subtle killing intent radiated from her, surprising everyone. Seeing her temperament, everyone would believe that she could do what she said, and her expression and attitude were proof of that. Chapter 247, Rough Waves. It was a preconceived notion that the royal family had ears everywhere. Sometimes, a few random words spoken by a passerby can cause a harsh punishment, and an existence can be wiped out entirely. There was going to be a banquet in the royal family, and many already knew that it was for King Alex. Some believed that although the Emperor did not favor the fifth prince before, it did not mean that he had any ill will towards him. So, Calling him out and crowning him in front of everyone while introducing him to the world might be a way to address the fifth prince's grievances. In a certain location in Zenith, where the public security department's headquarters was located, chaos had already broken out. A team consisting of well-trained knights found corpses near the cemetery, and a knight hurriedly knocked on the captain's door. "Captain, we're in trouble. What happened?" "We found corpses on the way to the cemetery and it seemed to be a squad sent to kill King Alex and Lady Christina. They have already reported this matter and are asking us to act," the captain almost shouted and jumped out of his chair. "Pass on my orders. Deploy all the knights. They dare to act wantonly and attempt to assassinate such an important guest in broad daylight. What recklessness is this?" He slammed his hand on the table, pulled out his sword, placed it on his waist, and walked out of his office with an angry expression. "Let's go. I don't know why I feel so uneasy," he said as his entire body trembled. Meanwhile, in the royal palace, the news spread quickly. All the princes and princesses had already been called to the capital. The news of the attack on Alex alerted everyone, and the emperor immediately called a meeting without wasting any time, much to everyone's surprise. It didn't take long for the matter to come to their ears as Alex openly came out of the closet. The prince and princess walked in and took their seats as the court official began to gather around. Everyone had an uneasy look on their faces, wondering what was going to happen. Many of them thought that this was just a minor matter, so why on earth was the emperor making such a fuss? Many wondered if the meeting could be related to other matters. Alice looked at everyone coldly, but beneath that coldness, she secretly imagined the scene that was going to happen. She knew her brother's capabilities, and if the assassins sent weren't stronger, they wouldn't be able to harm him unless he wanted to. First, Princess Leia stared at Alice and softly murmured, "Fourth sister, I heard that you visited little brother Alex. How is he?" Alice's gaze locked onto her. There was no emotion in Leia's eyes and she seemed to not care. But Alice knew that she was a little worried about Alex. There were no relatives in the palace and every relationship seemed to be based on benefit. But Princess Leia was a little different. She cared about others and was generally a benevolent person under the mask of coldness. Unlike Alice, although she did not spend time with Alex in childhood, she cared deeply for him, and it was under his shadow that they were both able to grow up. There were no servants to bully Alex because Princess Leia herself took action. Princess Leia's eyes were not set on the throne out of greed, but she wanted to create a precedent for women who had always been put behind men. She wanted to become empress and prove that women were in no way inferior to anyone, and at the same time she wanted to restrain her cunning brothers, who were always plotting against each other. At this moment, a long announcement sounded and Emperor Kevin von Stan entered the throne room. All the officials and royal family stood up and bowed. The emperor was sitting on the throne and was about to begin his speech when a loud explosion rang out in the far corner of the palace. The shockwaves caused tremors in the throne room, shocking many. Someone attacked the palace. Who wants to die? Everyone stared at the letter and stared at the emperor, who had an inexplicable expression on his face. What happened? A hoarse voice echoed throughout the place. At the same time, another explosion occurred. A guard rushed in and fell to his knees. "Greetings to your majesty," the man stammered a little and beads of sweat formed on his forehead. His Majesty King Alex had blown up the gates. A deathly silence reigned as soon as his voice fell and everyone looked around in disbelief. Blowing up the gates? Since when could the palace gates be attacked by the people of the empire? And even if some did attack, how could it be easy to blow up the gates? What kind of indecency is this? A noble roared. "Your Majesty, the fifth prince seemed to be the same idiot as before. We should execute these kinds of disobedient brats who don't know the vastness of heaven and earth," another shouted, trying to express his thoughts while agreeing with the other's words. Alice's expression hardened. Her face was already pale after hearing the sound of an explosion. "Big brothers, what the hell are you guys up to?" The matters of the capital weren't as simple as they seemed, and one can't rely on strength alone. One must also know the path to politics. Many raised their voices, expressing their thoughts and wanted to execute Alex. "So, you're saying that the guards are so weak that they can't even defend themselves from the attack of a kid who seemed to have the rank of master?" Kevin said loudly. Everyone who heard his words felt a chill down their spine, as they could sense the anger within those words. "What kind of fools were those guarding the gates?" he asked. The guard who brought the news panicked and fell to his knees begging for mercy. If the emperor were to get angry, his head would be the first to be cut off. He snorted and leaned back in his seat. "What do you think?" Kevin muttered weakly. "I think the snacks you've brought won't be enough for the show," a voice whispered from behind him. Kevin coughed lightly and said, "I'm talking about the situation, Your Majesty. Since you're here to watch the show, you might as well enjoy it. Also, you're quite cruel. It was you who manipulated things and replaced the guards, and now you're blaming others." A loud explosion rang out for a moment and everyone's expression turned ugly as they looked at the emperor, who sat silently. As the minister and officials shouted, a loud, hoarse voice echoed throughout the hall. It seemed like everyone had become senile due to old age. The sound of soft footsteps was heard, and finally a 19-year-old young man with wounds all over his body appeared. His face looked white as a sheet of paper and his body was soaked in blood, and each of his steps left a bloody footprint. And to everyone's horror, he was holding a recently severed head in his left hand. In a way, Alex's first entry into the throne room would leave an unforgettable memory in everyone's mind. Chapter 248, Rough Waves 2. Everyone gaped at the scene as Alex entered. While many clicked their tongues in disdain, many felt that something big was going to happen. Not all nobles were foolish or vain, and some observed things carefully before drawing an inference. "Fool, weren't you taught how to represent yourself to others?" said a noble. "No, I wasn't. If you have so much free time, why don't you come and teach me?" Alex sneered. The noble's lips closed tightly and he stared at Alex. Alex walked to the center and threw his head towards the throne. The head rolled across the floor and reached the stairs leading to the platform of the throne room. "I want to ask, what is this?" When the imperial envoy took him away, they promised to punish him and give me justice. Alex shouted and raised his voice higher. "I have heard that the man sitting on the throne, who was once my father, is a strong man, full of a sense of justice and magnanimity. He's strong enough to carry the entire kingdom on his shoulders, but after this incident, my eyes were opened. These were all false rumors that were made to cover up weakness. You can't even punish and keep a mouse properly. What right do you have to act so haughtily? Don't you feed the prison guards well or give them a salary to do their job?" Alex rolled his eyes at everyone and then pointed with his hands. Josh, who was at the back, was scared and tried to hide. "You can all ask Sir Josh. I already cut off Angus' arm, and under constant torture, he was reduced to a bag of bones, but even after this he was able to escape from the prison." Tisk. Tisk. "What a disgrace," Alex said disdainfully. The temperature of the surroundings seems to rise a few degrees as Alex begins to blame them. "King Alex, you are exaggerating. All the prison guards are loyal and do their duties well. You are slandering the emperor and committing an offense." Count Heidelberg stood up and spoke. He thought of taking this opportunity to lick the emperor's ass and speak on his behalf, and who knows, it may be the wisest decision on his part. "Seeing you sucking up to the prison guards, it seems you have something to do with this kind of thing. Tell me, why did you release Angus from the prison?" Everyone's gaze fell on Count Heidelberg. Count Heidelberg turned pale and shouted, "I have nothing to do with this. How dare you tarnish my reputation? This count's reputation is known all over the place, is that so? Then why are you spouting all that nonsense? Did you see anyone stand up and speak for them? Why are you the only one speaking for the prison guards?" Alex snorted. Count Heidelberg had a sudden revelation and stared at the other nobles, who averted their gaze. No one was foolish enough to oppose Alex when he had a valid reason, and that's why they must refrain from speaking and just remain silent to watch the show. "Your Majesty, is this how you rule? What kind of ignorant people have you been supporting? Is this guy ruining command right under your nose?" Alex said with a sad expression. Kevin, who was watching the scene with an indifferent gaze, suddenly clenched his fist and his expression hardened. The main reason for the meeting was to see how much Alex had grown after recovering, but little did he expect that this brat would go straight for his head and sully his reputation. He liked Alex's courage when facing situations like this. One might think that it was quite a hasty decision, but in a way, it was the best way to muddy the waters. It might cause a commotion and attract all the enemies' gazes, but this way, he could separate enemies from friends. He could also sense the resentment in Alex's heart and could feel that he was being attacked with every word. It made him extremely angry. It was a stain on his reputation. Alex had only recently entered Zenith and someone had already targeted him. It would be easy to accept if the other party was an assassin, but sadly he was a prisoner who was imprisoned in a heavily guarded prison. Anyone would be a fool to believe that a transcendent rank expert would escape from prison. If this matter were to become known to the public, it would be a joke in the eyes of other empires. His eyes reddened with anger and he looked at everyone's expressions, from royalty to nobles, and none of their emotions escaped his eyes. And even if it's not him, if there's a collaborator of the culprit, it must be a high official. If it happens once, It can happen twice, Alex shouted. If officials release prisoners like this to kill people, how can everyone sleep in peace? Who knows where a prisoner might fall from? I'm sad and disheartened by this situation. The entire hall fell silent as Alex blamed them one after another. Kevin tapped his finger and said, "Today this emperor has shamed you. Since Angus was pardoned and brought here according to an imperial decree, his responsibility falls on us. His escape and all the trouble caused to King Alex and their families would be compensated, and this matter will be thoroughly investigated. I want the heads of everyone involved in this occurrence. I don't care if it's a noble of lower or higher authority, they would all be killed, and..." Emperor Kevin paused and spoke regretfully, "If this has anything to do with the members of the royal family, report the matter to me. I will decide the punishment according to the offense. I assure you that the preparer would be punished no matter what." Then, "King Alex, are you satisfied?" "Very satisfied, Your Highness. I might not be able to sleep today from the excitement of watching the convicts being executed," Alex said. "Well, since this matter is settled, let's move on to the next. What punishment should be given to Alex for his recklessness?" Emperor Kevin said with a mocking smile. Chapter 249, Punishment. Alex closed his lips and stared at the Emperor's expression. He could see a large smile on his face and he tilted his head with a confused look. Why do I feel like he's enjoying the situation? Am I hallucinating? Maybe he was thinking of a cruel punishment and couldn't control his excitement as he imagined my miserable end, Alex muttered with a nod. The Emperor turned his head and said, "What do the court officials think about this? I'd like to hear your opinion." The court officials lowered their heads like frightened mice. They just saw the Emperor agreeing to Alex's request, and now they were asking for his opinion on punishing him. No one wanted to risk saying something about this matter that could be used against them later. If it were anyone else, they were sure that they would be killed instead, but not only did the Emperor not seem angry, he didn't even scold or reprimand Alex. This shows that even though the Emperor may hate Alex, he can't bear to punish him harshly since King Alex was his flesh and blood. Furthermore, no one knows how important King Alex's mother was to the Emperor. When King Alex was born, many talked and spread rumors calling him an illegitimate child, but all those who said those words were unable to see the sun the next day. This shows that she held an important place in the Emperor's heart and that no matter what, royalty cannot be slandered. And what exactly was her position? No one was sure of it. Kevin looked at everyone who didn't even raise their heads to look at him. He nodded in satisfaction as he saw fear in their eyes. "Minister Clark, what do you think of this?" Small beads of sweat began to form on his head, and he raised his head and said, "Your Majesty, King Alex's forced entry is a sign of his insolence. King Alex could have asked for justice at the Public Security Bureau, but coming here with a clear head shows that he had no respect for your Majesty. He is simply an uneducated and ill-mannered brat who needs to be properly educated and punished." Kevin nodded and said, "You are right, I agree with you too." Alex suddenly spoke up to everyone's surprise. "I have not been taught well and have no experience in the educational field. Unfortunately, no one wanted to teach a disinherited child like me. Even his father abandoned him, unable to control him, so who could be brave enough to handle him and teach me normal courtesy? I don't even know the etiquettes and history of nobility." "What bad luck," Alex said, pitying himself. Kevin's lips twitched uncontrollably and he felt that this guy was intentionally targeting him. "I've already decided." His voice spread far and wide and echoed in the hall. "King Alex severely lacks ethics. His behavior is not befitting of a king. Swallowing knowledge will not only harm oneself, but also a kingdom. So, in order to complete your knowledge and make up for the lack, you are punished to attend the academy and stay there until you can graduate. Until you graduate, you do not have the qualifications to be crowned," Kevin said with a big smile on his face. Alex, who was eagerly awaiting the punishment, suddenly felt the world around him become lifeless. He thought that he might be severely punished and might be injured, but this, a brilliant student who had already passed university with honors due to some circumstances, was forced to enter the school once again. How would that person feel? That was what Alex felt now. A deep sense of shame washed over him. While Alex was in shock, the nobles and officials almost fell on their backs upon hearing the judgment. Those who wanted Alex to be severely punished were speechless, while some who were neutral or reasoned with Alex looked at him with pity. The princes and princess looked at Alex with an inexplicable look. The Emperor's stance towards Alex can be inferred from this decision itself. Normally a person who enters like this is punished for a crime, and even if they were severely punished they would at least be locked up. But this guy wasn't punished, and in a way wasn't it a reward? All connections are forged in the academy, and it was the springboard for them to form a foundation in the future. And Alex entering the academy was like giving him wings. "I refuse," Alex shouted. "You can put me under house arrest or spank me 1,000 times or something, but forcing me to enter the academy is an insult. I'm already a grown man and I'm married. Doesn't it dishearten you to stop a good husband from taking care of his wife? As a husband, I have certain duties to fulfill, so as not to leave my wife dissatisfied. Aren't you sowing discord in my family?" Everyone nearly choked upon hearing her words. "Shameless," Alice muttered and looked away. At that moment she wanted to declare that she didn't know this guy. Only her elder brother could say such shameless words, in such an eloquent manner and with such a straight face. Kevin wanted to control his anger and spoke. "Did I ask for your opinion? I'm giving an order, not asking for an opinion. Also, grown man, my foot. All the students attending the academy are between 18 and 21 years old, and as far as I remember, you're still 19. How did you become a grown man?" And according to the covenant, every prince who wanted to be king had to graduate from the academy so that some yokel wouldn't come and sit on the throne. Rules mean rules. Those who don't follow them are fools, and fools have no right to sit on thrones. So go and study well and don't make any more trouble. For all those bitter years you've suffered, I'll forgive you and overlook your recklessness this time. Now disperse," Kevin shouted, his figure quickly disappearing from the throne, leaving everyone bewildered. Chapter 250, Find a Scapegoat. The contents of the meeting shocked everyone. Some even wondered if the emperor had taken the wrong medicine. The emperor was always known as a wild beast who attacked anyone who tried to challenge him, and his unscrupulous behavior was known to all. King Alex, who had broken down the doors and forced his way into the throne room, was punished to enter the academy. The news brought disbelief to everyone. While many wondered what the emperor's motive and stance was and what the future held for them, a gloomy atmosphere prevailed in a certain place that made it difficult to walk a tightrope. In the second prince's mansion, a tall and domineering figure stood by the window looking at the scene unfolding outside. It was pouring rain and the atmosphere was rather depressing, similar to his mood. It was the second son of the Empire, Hex von Stan. To him, the only contender to the throne was first Prince Sean. Both of them were on equal terms for now, but the small mishap that happened yesterday had already affected him greatly. "General Shen, did you know what you did wrong?" Behind him, a middle-aged man knelt down and lowered his head. His hair was disheveled and he looked to be in poor condition. "Your Highness, please forgive my insolence. I should have asked you before I acted. My greed got the better of me." Clang. A wine glass hit his head and the wine stained his face. "This isn't even the first time your greed has gotten the better of you, General Shen." Major General Shen and Christina's father, Ruth, were good friends. Unlike Ruth, he does not have excellent leadership qualities, and as his friend rose in position, jealousy began to cloud his mind. One day, he learned a shocking truth. Ruth had a family heirloom, a sword that grows with whoever uses it. Shen, who had been with Ruth since the early days, knew that Ruth was not as meticulous as in his early years of service, and thought that it was the sword's effect that made him what he was, and if he could get his hands on his sword, he would get what Ruth had. He made a deal with Prince Hex to become his subordinate and use the army at his disposal if he could help eliminate Ruth. By forging documents and using other means, they managed to catch and execute him. He obtained the sword and his position, but unfortunately he was unable to use the sword, and it did not accept him as its master. 8 years later, Ruth's daughter began to rise, and with her strength, she was able to solve the mystery that had the possibility of harming him and the prince, so Hex personally took action once again and suppressed her. Unfortunately, they were unable to kill her due to the Emperor's intervention. He thought of using Angus to bring Christina to Amidon and finish her off, but who knew that Nevin would rise up and suppress them? And who knew that the assassination would also fail, and Alex would be brave enough to enter the throne room with a head slandering the Emperor? If he had known this, he would not have made the decision without consulting the prince. "Your mistake is not acting without asking me, but being unable to take care of things. Since you dared to act, why didn't you use all your strength to cut the sprout completely from the root?" Hex said with an angry tone. "And on top of that, why did you release Angus instead of sending an assassin?" Shen lowered his head in shame and said, "Your Highness, I searched for an assassin, but none of them accepted the offer no matter the amount." It was as if a third voice intervened in it. "Some took the order before, but they were all killed without leaving any trace, and after that, no one dared to take the assassination order to kill Christina," Shen explained. Hen's blank expression began to crumble and a look of panic appeared on his face. A third party, his eyes widened. You said a third party intervened and wiped out the assassins quickly. He fell into deep thought. A third force with a means to obtain information means that the force must have a huge intelligent network and people capable of killing without leaving any evidence. He couldn't link any of the forces, and even if there were, he couldn't guess their identity. He doubted that Christina had strong support, but if she had, she wouldn't be in this kind of situation from the start and her family wouldn't have died. Alex didn't have any connections and there was no doubt about it. The only powerful backer they had was the Lockhart merchant group, but there was no way they would act so accurately since all of them were monitored by the Emperor's forces. After racking his brains, a sudden thought struck him and an unknown fear rose from his heart. He began to sweat profusely and his heart tightened. After seeing his royal father confront Alex and his motive for forcing him into the academy, there was a possibility that he was the one acting in secret. Father wanted to support him, but that doesn't seem to be feasible in any way. With so many good heirs, why would he choose someone who is already behind and is almost out of the race, or he's raising him to fight against them and nullify the prince's forces? He didn't need to worry about that now, rather he must find a way to resolve the matter, because if anyone traced this incident back to him, then he was sure that he would be expelled from the race. Furthermore, he wasn't sure about the identity of the third force and had to investigate it a bit. General Shen, find a scapegoat, and that man shouldn't be ours. Make an excuse that this wasn't an assassination mission and that the guy coveted Christina and wanted to kidnap her, but because of Alex's presence, the fight broke out and he was killed, and he chose Angus because of his hatred towards Alex and Christina. Shen nodded gently and stood up. And remember, if this turns out to be a failure, then just kill yourself. Otherwise, if I decide to act, even your pleas for death will be useless. A chill ran down his spine upon hearing Hex's words. He knew that he was just a pawn that would be discarded if he lost his value. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.